The walls of time are breaking down. You need to listen. The only way to save the universe. Watch Type 40.
Hello. Yes, we're live. We're live on Saturday, the 15th of June, 2024, with this spine-chilling extra Type 40 live. We're materialising again with the live stream Doctor Who magazine show across your view screen in real time on Rumble, X, YouTube, and on Facebook too, of course, in front of a live chat full of friends, fans, and companions just like you. On screen earlier this evening, as of recording, was a special episode, I suppose you could say, a special episode of the greatest TV show of all time. There you go. Take that one, Trekkers. And here we're going to get stuck in to bring you our first reactions, our hot takes, cold shoulders, high fives, and pot shots. Doctor Who, the world's longest running and best loved fantasy TV series, returned for its first full season in over 2.5 years, just a few weeks ago. My God, that legacy stretching all the way back 61 years, 15 incarnations of the Doctor now. And already we're nearly at the final fence, just as summer proper kind of kicks in. Time to look back to the the very recent past, in fact, here at Type 40 Live. Yes, hello. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks, and we're going to be setting some more sparks flying over the next couple of hours, maybe, just as the TARDIS did when it flew into Unit HQ. Still don't know if I like that, and the sonic boom as it enters the atmosphere, all that kind of thing. I don't know. It's a bit Looney Tunes, but yeah, maybe. Maybe we'll get used to it, eh? So that's just one of many bombshells that were dropped on us over the last few hours, depending on how you watched it. So we've got our TARDIS all set. Yeah, we've got the right bulbs in this time. We've got a hand-picked panel too to fill it up. A panel of huge Doctor Who fans who I'm going to welcome with a salute. Just a salute. Yet they don't need to show me the loving. All they need to show me are their honest opinions here at Type 40 Live. First of all, we have the reassuring presence and some stone cold home truths, courtesy of Miss Charlotte Shields.
I was going to say, it depends what kind of loving now in Doctor Who that you're referring to.
All kinds, I think.
All kinds. That's a polite way to put it, yeah.
It's looking that way, isn't it? Hello, Charlotte. It's not been that long since I last spoke to you, so it is a bit strange going live on a Saturday, and wherever they are out there, whenever they're getting this, if they're catching up later on or watching it again, I don't know. We're caught in a time eddy of our own, aren't we? Lots to say. I would imagine you have as well.
Yeah, I suppose if we to match this tonight's episode that's going to come up, we're sort of stuck in a time window, aren't we?
Yeah, get the Windolene out. Next in, it's John Yulden, and he's poised to bring some dry wit along with masses of Doctor Who knowledge, no doubt. Hello, mate.
Knowledge? What? Me? No way.
You hide your light under a bushel, mate.
How we doing? All right?
Great. Yeah, it's been a bit of a funny old day. You know, we've had all seasons in one day today. It's been peeing it down with rain 1 minute, bright blue skies the next. Don't know whether I'm coming or going, but that's about par for the course with me anyway, to tell you the truth.
We don't get rain in Dorset, so I don't know what you're on about. Is that where water drips from the sky?
Yeah, it's the weather system that only lives up north.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about it. It's a myth.
You can go off people, you know. You can go off these people, can't you, Charlotte? Yeah.
Just well, we used to it now, John.
rubbing it in. And next we have, not touching grass, thankfully, this evening. Instead, he's touching base with us. No doubt he's going to bring many puns and double entendres with him too. What are we ever going to do with him? It can only be our longtime friend, Mr. Gary Akers.
Giving you all the lovin' from California, Dan.
There's a lot of loving goes on in California traditionally, and a lot of dreaming.
Most of it I don't even know about, but yeah.
If you believe the mamas and the papas, it was California dreaming, wasn't it? Not California loving.
That's right. That's right.
There
it's
you
all
go.
coming to you.
Yay! You ready to go, mate?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Excellent. Somebody who's always raring to go. Next is filling up the panel very, very nicely. So if George Martin was the honorary sort of Beatle, this man's an honorary Type 40er. And has been for a long time, because he arranged and performed all the music you hear on the show, and he has been known now and again to arrange the odd word or two on the subject of Doctor Who. I'm delighted to say that Lee's back with us.
Hello.
Hello.
The Destroyer, where I tread, I leave nothing but common sense. Hello, how are you all? How's the chat?
Beware his stone cold touch. Everybody beware. So yes, we may have more people dropping in as well. We'll have to see where they are. They could have been diverted on the way to or from the pub. We'll have to see. We'll have to see about that. So yes, how do you feel about the new TARDIS, Lee? I haven't had a chance to speak to you about this yet. What, are you warming to it? No, they changed the bulbs?
No. Absolutely not. I thought I would like it, because I thought, well, they're going for the old member berries with the, the roundels, even though they're wrongly placed, they should be at diagonals, but hey, that's just splitting hairs. I think if you're going to have the TARDIS white, at least make it match the rest of the white. It's off-white. It just looks weird. And it's just too big. It's too big with nothing in it, and you've got all this crazy arrangement of ramps everywhere, and it just looks a mess, quite frankly. But then I'm not a fan of RTD's TARDISes, quite honestly. I much preferred Matt Smith's and
the last ones.
Last, his two. I like those two.
They could do with another couple of levels in there. I think, Gary, sort of maybe a little workshop up on one of those gantries somewhere, or a library, like we had in the Peter Capaldi era.
Oh yeah, that's the kind of standard for me, is the library, because that made the TARDIS look like a home, his home, rather than just a vehicle to get it from place to place. Looking at this picture, Dan, it seems to me like the time rotor looks like a bug zapper.
Humane, obviously, completely humane.
Yes.
You never know what you're going to get on this show, do you? So, this is Type 40 Live, the Doctor Who magazine show, of course, full of news, views, nostalgia, banter, dad jokes, fan art, and everything in between. We've been quite inundated over the last few weeks with messages from people asking for more of these reaction shows like we did for the anniversary. More? Really? Honestly? So here it is, everybody. Be careful what you wish for. We're going to get cracking. It's been another massive week for us here across YouTube and Rumble, and on X it's doing very, very well as well. So our gratitude to both our new and our returning companions alike. We're always happy to have you aboard the old Type 40. Let us know what you think of it all. We've got a live chat already full of comments there. That's great to see. Please remember, if you're in Facebook, though, you've got to hit that little blue link, and then Facebook will pass that message to StreamYard, and StreamYard will pass your name to us, and we'll find out exactly who you are. So I was wondering if we've gotten used to the fact, Gary, because obviously you over there in the States, have you gotten used to the new delivery method of Doctor Who now it's coming to the end of the season? Because everything changed, didn't it?
Well, it used to be watching it on BBC America, on the night of, And now I kind of have to remind myself, like on Friday afternoons, when I stop work about 4 p.m, I can actually go over and watch the new episode. And that's still kind of odd.
It's strange. I know that people in Britain, some people are watching it at midnight, and I get the impression a lot more people watch this week's at midnight too. Have you found that, Charlotte? Do you think there's more people rushing to it, knowing that it was going to be something big?
I don't know if more people are doing the midnight one. It will be interesting to see the overnights, because out of the absolute car crash of Rogue, is that going to impact? And I would think even if fans thought there was something in the air, I still think that episode Rogue is going to damage the viewing figures for this.
Yeah, I'd say I can't see how it can't, and it could be a great pity. Really, obviously, the series is a huge cultural touchstone here in Britain, and a favourite to just as many people all over the world, but more, I suppose. But it does mean different things to different people, and just as that's the same all over the world, it's the same here too. So obviously, all our experiences may be slightly different. You may have watched it at a completely different time of day. You may have been half cut. I don't know, but it's all the same to us. We have somebody else. Yes, two people about to complete our panel as well. I'm happy to say so. So this guy's a bit of a podcasting legend, and he's a movie addict. He's a Who addict. But I don't think he's got the shakes. I don't think he's got the shakes this time. He could just be riding high. That's what it is. Welcome back to Type 40 Live, James Wilson.
Hi, guys. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? Okay?
Yeah, it's great to see you, mate.
I've got my good friend Bear Tennant here once again. He has been held by David Tennant himself. So I'm very, very pleased to have him here with me today to talk about that mind-blowing Doctor Who episode that we had just this morning. So yeah, I'm very, very pleased to be here.
Here we are in this new era, James. So it's been, well, you could say it's 6 months old if you include the Christmas special. How have you found it, generally speaking? Do you think the brand has been refreshed, or where have you found it over the last 5 or 6 weeks?
It's been a bit of a tumultuous time, I think, in terms of being a Doctor Who fan, because there's so much new stuff that we've had to get used to as Doctor Who fans, because for the first time as I think viewers as a whole, because obviously, you know, we didn't exactly have streaming with the classic era, and obviously we certainly didn't have it with when the show came back in 2005. And so with me, it's something new in terms of I get a new episode at midnight every Saturday. That's something that I'm excited about, because I'm a very, very impatient man. I don't like waiting for anything. So if I'm excited for stuff, I don't like waiting for it. So I do like that when I was up and I was having a few cans in my front room, and I was just like waiting, like, okay, it's 23 o'clock right now. So I was just sat there in my front room, like, okay, it's nearly time.
The clock's ticking.
Yeah, the clock's ticking now. So as soon as it turned to all those zeros on my 24-hour clock on my phone, I was like, right, okay, it's time. So I was
just saying to Charlotte, is anybody actually watching this at midnight? But it sounds like they are, Charlotte. James definitely is.
Yeah, I think there will be some, but it'd be intriguing to see if, like you said, this being the finale has actually upped because it wasn't massive numbers. So it'd be interesting to see if that gets upped.
Dan Shar's in the chat, and she said this was the first time she watched at midnight.
We'll get to the chat in a couple of minutes.
I will make a confession. I was staying up to midnight to watch it last night. I thought I'm going to watch it at midnight, and the next thing I knew was my family members had woken me up while my lights were on, while I was passed out on my bed at 2 minutes past midnight. So the human body of mine that's getting older had me last night, And that is why I had to
the
wait
spirit was willing, at least,
Yeah.
John. The spirit was willing. Whilst I remember, if you want more from us, you can get our podcast in your ears. Catch up on previous reviews, interviews, previews, geek outs, and deep dives on the Type 40 podcast. That's available across all major podcatchers and at our home feed at type40.podbean.com. Here at Type 40 Live is where we kind of take the brakes off, don't we? Anything goes, really, particularly on these shows, because today, obviously, we've all just seen that brand new episode, so our feelings are raw. It's still very much alive in our memories, so we're going to chew on something, maybe swill something, swig something down our necks, and interact with everybody there in the live chat too. We know there are lots of fans out there waiting with bated breath to have their say, have your say, and we'll be taking your comments from the live chat as always. Of course we will. So here we go.
I need a big dance number. That's what I'm going to put into the universe. I need the Doctor to have a big, fierce dance routine that, like, destroys a monster with twerking. Or maybe some death drops. And that's what will drop the monster.
Oh, so fitting.
You've just leaked the finale.
Very, very nearly. Yes, the death drops. The gift of death drops. Gary, the gift of death drops. So yes, as fans of the world's longest running and best loved sci-fi and fantasy TV series, we're accustomed to taking the rough with the smooth, aren't we? It has to be said. Most of us were pretty excited, or relieved, excited, when Russell T Davies' return was announced nearly 3 years ago now, and his first season showrunning again with a new Doctor and a new companion, featuring all these scripts, brand new scripts from a guy who said he would never ever write another Doctor Who story. Do you remember when Russell used to say all that stuff, John?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Apparently he lies a lot.
He also said, he was also interviewed, I think it was on, was it Newsnight or something back in 2005, where he said, but he was asked, so would the Doctor be gay? And he said, don't be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Saying.
Yes. Yes, lots of hyperbole, and I'm not sure that he remembers what he said last week, never mind 10 years ago. Yes, we've got the new Doctor, we've got the new companion, but strangely enough, opinions have been very much divided on this era, haven't they? It's not gone quite so well, particularly the new lead actor. And you can't please all the people all of the time, of course you can't, but in years gone by, specifically from 2005 to 2009, Russell T Davies and his casts and crew never failed to deliver when it came to making sure each season of our favourite show went out with the loudest of bangs. And they were so loud and so affecting, they kept the nation talking. Never mind the fans, it was the entire nation. But has he lost that touch? I think a lot of us were wondering that. We sincerely were after the last couple of months. Everything is possible. Well, Doctor Who fans are pretty good at keeping the faith, aren't we? And so here we are, this plucky few who've weathered the storm of the last few episodes, and we're here for the Legend of Ruby Sunday. So we've got the synopsis here, and this is how it went. A dusty old VHS tape may hold the answers to Ruby's past, so the Doctor takes her to Unit HQ in 2024 to get to the bottom of it all, and the face that's been following them throughout space and time. There, whilst the time window reveals horrifying secrets from that Christmas Eve, the mysterious triad technology unleashed the greatest evil of them all, and the whole of existence is in grave danger. So this premiered today, as of time of recording, or in the last 24 hours, the 14th/the 15th of June, 2024, streaming to Disney Plus and on the iPLAYER, and broadcast earlier this evening at 6:30 p.m. this time. They moved the time slot around again. I don't know if that's very wise under present circumstances. Do people follow it around? I'm not entirely sure. So this starred Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson, joined by Bonnie Langford as Mel, the ever dependable Bonnie Langford. And that was just the beginning of 45 minutes of unabashed Doctor Who. I think you would safely say they took all the brakes off for this one, Charlotte. It felt like so much was packed into that 45 minutes.
It felt like there was less messing around to get to the plot this time. It felt like pretty much from the get-go,
away.
It was right. Let's get this issue sorted. Let's get going with this woman. And I actually think that worked to a degree for me, if I'm being honest, because I like that it was quite quick to get started. I like that about it. But I felt like the first 10 minutes, for all that sort of pace they set up, it started to wind down because for me, there was an awful lot of exposition. There was an awful lot of, let's go over stuff that we've already shown you. Let's refer to things that have, and I know you've got to do that a little bit with your finale because you're tying it up. But I felt like that's what annoyed me, actually, because like you said, it started with such a pace. And then, like I said, I felt like it just flowed for a good chunk of it until the end.
I think what we have to realise is that although we sit and talk about these things for hours and end in between episodes, the general public don't, do they? And so they kind of, I think they do need a little bit of a refresher, or at least some of these things being brought into alignment. Gary, I actually think that's pretty deft screenwriting myself. What do you think?
Well, are you talking about in terms of bringing the newer viewers up to speed on Sutekh?
Well, the casual. No, I'm talking about a casual audience. So at the beginning of the episode, as Charlotte was saying, we've got several plates spinning, haven't we? We've got the stuff going on with the face of this woman following them through space and time, and you've got the question of Ruby as well. And all this has been going on since Christmas with her. This is very much a showcase for all of that, and yet again for Millie Gibson. But for the people who've been following the show or only had one eye on it over the last few months, they may not have seen all this connective tissue or even spotted, for example, the fact that it's been snowing everywhere they went when Ruby gets triggered, all these little things. So what I'm saying, it's a way of catching people up right at the beginning that may grate on fans a little bit, but the casuals, I think that they actually benefit from something like that. What do you reckon?
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to, when you have so many threads, that's pretty much what you're forced to do in your big season finale. I was actually taking a walk a couple of days ago, and I was wondering whether it's a good idea when you have basically kind of a remit to resuscitate a franchise, which at the beginning of this new term was kind of on life support, that I'm not sure the way to do that when you only have 8 episodes that are mostly standalones, and yet you kind of thread 6 to 7 different, mysteries, questions through it all. I'm not really sure. I mean, obviously it'll take next week to see, about the efficacy of that. But when you have that truncated at a time, and I think you were talking about this on Thursday, when you have that truncated of a time, is it wise to kind of create half a dozen different threads that you're going to have to wrap up?
The question is anything going to be wrapped up, or is it just simply being developed? James, have you found these storylines that have gradually, because it's not been dense, has it? It's not been particularly complicated. The run has been quite free and open and quite bouncy. I think it's not been bogged down with an arc that if you miss a single line of something, you're not going to know what's going on. But there's just these little things that people can follow. Do you think it's been effective, or it's just been not enough, or been too much? What do you think?
Well, I think that that gentleman does have a point in that the series has been generally standalone for the series thus far. But I do think that in many ways, with Russell T Davies' original run from 2005 to 2010. Those were that was kind of Russell's whole deal. It was very similar to things that we've seen before, where there would be an entire series, there would be certain words or a certain character that would be referenced or hinted towards for most of the run. This word or character wouldn't really be it wouldn't really impede on the series or the episodes too much. But then right at the end, it would give you some answers. It would give you a great big whopping, like, great big whopping cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And so, to me,
he delivered. He delivered every time, didn't he, James? I think whether his precise, the way that he measures the content or not is 100% to your taste. Nobody could argue the fact that he delivered, and it did work for the majority of the fans, and certainly for the general public. They lapped it up, didn't they, for 4 years?
Yeah, absolutely they did. And I certainly did. That was in my prime as a Doctor Who fan. Like, I was realizing, oh my God, Bad Wolf, what the heck does that mean? Oh my God, Torchwood, what the heck does that mean? Oh my God, Harold Saxon, what the heck does that mean? So I was always, kind of looking at what the heck was going on. But I think with an 8-episode run compared to a 13-episode run, there was a lot less time to really build upon it and really kind of give us some sense of something building up. And so it did at times kind of feel like there wasn't a lot of time for us to theorize, for us to kind of stew in this. And so, yeah, some of them may have realized that, okay, some of them may have started in like Wild Blue Yonder last year with, the TARDIS making some strange sounds, and that was apparently Sutek actually, like latching onto the TARDIS and affecting the TARDIS in some way. So I think that, yes, it was affecting the 60th specials in some sense. So
if we go right the way back for the entire 12-13 that they've produced in this extended run that we've had over the last 12 months, albeit with big gaps in between, that it may actually reward repeat viewing in the way that Russell's other stuff used to. I mean, the crux of the matter is with this, because it's been a shorter run, I think a lot of it, more so than ever, has hinged on how we've latched on to, yes, the Doctor, of course the Doctor, but the Doctor's a sort of constant, a reassuring presence. I think a lot of it has depended how much we've latched on to Ruby Sunday as played by Millie Gibson. Lee, you've seen a few companions come and go by now, haven't you, over the years? Do you see what I'm saying? If, in many ways, you're not going to care about where Ruby comes from, the mystery of her parentage, if you don't care about the character, are you? Do you care about Ruby Sunday? Have they sold you on her?
I couldn't give a toss. I just find it
Really?
generic. It's just another 21st century female, blonde hair
archetype,
teenage. It's just become a trope at this point. We talk about who's her mother, where's her father? Oh, that doesn't matter. At this point, it's just so clear, all the messaging that is instilled within this. I just find it just insufferable, quite honestly.
To be fair, Lee, I mean, to be fair, I think we can. To be fair, we can't see agendas in that. Surely, it's fathers tend not to abandon their babies in shop doorways or at doctors' surgeries or churches, do they? It is always mothers, usually young mothers who've given birth to, not fathers.
Yeah, but where is the father? Who is the father? Does it matter? Will it be Sutek? That'll be hilarious.
Well, I think for me, the logical progression would be to find out, because obviously they've got accounts of the mother being there. The logical step is to find out who the mother is, and then you'd ask the mother, okay, who was my father? I think that personally, I think that makes dramatic sense. But what do you? So, okay, so let's get cut to the crunch of it then. So, we're at the season finale. This is make or break time, if ever there was, for Doctor Who. Do you think this episode has delivered on the lineage of Russell T Davies finales in the past, Charlotte? I know it's only the first half, but generally speaking, when we look back on how things have gone before, how these tend to go down with the viewing public, with the fans, if you got a good feeling about this, did you enjoy this?
There were bits of this that I really did enjoy, more than definitely some of the other episodes before. You were talking about time and getting connected with characters. I like that Mel actually had quite a bit of time in this episode, that she wasn't just a background character. So all the stuff with her actually working for UNIT, we got to actually see for once, not just be told, oh, they work for UNIT. we actually saw she's doing undercover work. She's sort of investigating a bit, which is lovely. And Bonnie's just such a good actress that she could pull it off. And then she had lots of interactions, whether with Ruby or with the Doctor. I thought actually the stuff she did with the Doctor was really quite well written. The scene when he was having a bit of a breakdown and she said, "Come on, you can do this. You need to get up and sort of go." That
was one of the best scenes in the entire thing, and really chimed with the character that Mel was way back, I felt.
Yeah, and considering I didn't like how she was written in the 60th, this felt, I agree with you, this felt a lot more like Mel. This felt a lot more authentic to Mel. So I love the Mel stuff. And I think they got the sense of creepiness near the end with Sutekh, which I think they needed to get, especially as I think a lot of the villains this series have fallen quite flat. They've sort of not been that really sort of scary, creepy villain yet, which we know
I can't remember. I can't remember a single one of them. I have to be honest.
That's my point. I think that has been
apart from Maestro, and I've tried to sort of block that out.
Yeah, that's the thing. You've either remembered them for the wrong reasons or you've forgotten about them. So at least with Sutekh, when we finally got the proper reveal with the possession idea, with how they looked, those two women by the end, I like the design, the jackal sort of design you saw around the TARDIS. But so I enjoyed that stuff about it. And I actually thought Ncuti toned his performance down again, which I always find his Doctor more compelling when he is doing that, toning down.
It is interesting. Not only is he more compelling, but he seems to have a firmer grasp on the character. The smaller and the quieter he gets, he seems more convincing, seems more in sync with it.
I think when he's been over the top, that's when he loses the character. I think when another scene I thought was really good in this was when he didn't want to face Susan, and he had that moment with Kate, and he sort of said, "I destroy everything. I don't want to hurt her." And I think that shows real loving and caring and sort of devotion, which is what the Doctor would have to Susan, especially. So those things I loved. And then the thing that didn't work for me, and I've got to be honest, I think I'm sort of at this point now with UNIT that I don't care about this version of UNIT. I find them incredibly boring. I find that we're sort of given these characters thrown at us almost to be like, look, they're a member of UNIT, you got to like them. And there's nothing there to sort of depth-wise. We've got a new scientific advisor. I didn't feel anything.
I think it's hard to know. I think for somebody who's writing something like this, John, it must be hard to know. But this is Russell T Davies is one of the biggest screenwriters. He's certainly the most powerful screenwriter in Britain probably at the moment. So if he doesn't know, who does? But it's a bit of a balancing act, isn't it? Because you don't want to keep stopping the drama, the action, and the story from unfolding, particularly at a finale, to spend too much time getting introspective and to spend time with these characters and bringing us up to date on them and to flesh them out too much. They should flesh them out as the story goes along, I feel. So I do understand what Charlotte means. I sort of share the frustration a little. But I thought that was one of the strong points of this. These little character moments that gradually I feel that we're getting some of the blanks filled. I don't know whether I like any of these characters or not, don't get me wrong, but I do feel like they're being gradually brought to life in a way that, for example, Chris Chibnall couldn't manage over 3 seasons.
I agree with what you say. Before I get on to that, I would say that I think there needs to be an inquiry because UNIT is clearly not complying with child safety laws. Because they've clearly got them. It's a step up from a sweatshop at the moment. To be perfectly honest, I bet they're not even getting paid. The poor lad.
Yeah, I was wondering how old Rose Temple Noble was supposed to be 15, by the time of this. Well, she was 15 when we last saw her. Yeah. But when the Doctor sees her in this, you get the impression she's actually been quite a while. So I thought, okay, maybe she's 18 because it does seem like she's some sort of trainee. I thought I can handwave that, and then you realise they've also got a 13-year-old on staff. and it's just as you said.
I really enjoyed this this episode, and I said Thursday night that if I enjoyed it, I would say what a waste this season has been, because if you can get something that I enjoyed like that, it should have been so much better throughout the rest of the season. And I kind of alluded to it the other day, for someone as powerful as Sutek, this should have been an entire season story. This should have been, and this is me doing my sci-fi geek thing, this should have been, right, you introduce early on or even in the 60th, Sutek is unleashed, he's decimating the universe. You've then got the Doctor trying to forge alliances with Daleks, whoever else, trying to build an alliance to be powerful enough to take him on.
Yeah, because the gift of death is being brought to everybody, isn't it? It's not just humankind.
And I remember the Fourth Doctor says, in Pyramids of Mars, he says they were even too powerful for the Time Lords, so the Time Lords couldn't take them. So that shows how high up in the tier of villains this Sutek is. So I think that's a waste, because you could have done such a good season out of it. But,
I mean, I kind of agree with you there, because my initial thought was kind of, why his title throughout the entire series was The One Who Waits. Why was he waiting? Like, I'm kind of.
It doesn't seem to need to, does it?
I'm kind of wondering. Why did Sutek need to wait? Like, he basically had the TARDIS latched onto him for the entire series, I'm assuming. So he could have just popped up at any given moment and just showed up and like, boo, hiya Doctor, here I am. So I think
you're absolutely right. But I think in all truth,
I'm just kind of really curious after that episode. Like, as shocking as it all was, like I kind of just go, why did you wait? Like, what was the I hope
because it wasn't the finale yet.
Yeah, I know the literal reason as to why, but but the actual reason, I'm hoping I get to hear that in next week's finale, because I'm just kind of wondering why wait? Like, but like, I knew why the Master in series 3 back in 2007, I know why that waited, because that he was waiting for the Doctor to come along and basically conjure up those old memories, because he turned himself human, and those were the reasons why, because he had to like, have the Doctor to conjure up those old memories, to bring those back to life in order to make him for him to open up that watch. But this time I'm just like, this is the biggest enemy I think since the Master, because, well, every other reveal in modern era has been the Master. Like, like every head writer hasn't been able to think up any other Doctor Who, any other Doctor Who villain to bring back. So every other Doctor Who villain has been the Master in whatever form, whether it be Missy or Agent O with Sasha Dewan or whatever. So literally, Sutek has been the last one that we've had. So I'm just kind of thinking, why, like, wait this long? So I'm hoping in Empire of Death we get to know why Sutek waited this long to be revealed.
And James, I would also say in the season as well, being a dumb viewer as I am, I would have liked it if you'd seen in like 73 yards, the TARDIS, when you see shots of the TARDIS, you see that kind of distortion effect, like a dust around it every now and again, because that would say to the viewer, similar to you had a few years back, you had the crack, and people were like, oh, okay, I wonder what that is. And that entices people in. You didn't have anything like that.
I think the answer to the question is actually in the episode. I think when what's her name, Harriet, the character who gets possessed and starts reciting that incantation, who says, "Oh, the Time Lord was vain," and all, he's coming, all that stuff. The impression I get, I mean, all this still connects right the way back to Wild Blue Yonder, when the Doctor cast that salt at the edge of the universe. He said, "I've let all manner of things in," and Sutek was one of them. So I don't think he's actually been waiting that long. I think this has been building. Other creatures, various different creatures have been released, and it seems like the Sutek was gathering information. Is that what he said? He was covertly gathering information underneath the Doctor's nose through his harbingers, through Susan Triad's various manifestations. He was using her through her dreams to find out where the Doctor was. And it seems like he had to be brought through in that way. Well, I suppose we'll find out more next week.
That I would accept. That I would accept as a reason why he was waiting. So I would accept.
I mean, he hasn't been waiting since the end of Pyramids of Mars, for example. He's been waiting since the end of Wild Blue Yonder. He would have been released. He would have been at the end
of the universe. Yeah, the end of the universe.
If you remember, he likens himself other gods. He talks about other gods. He mentions the Mara. The Mara hides in the dark places of the inside. So I would imagine that it'd be a similar kind of thing. Why does the Mara wait? Why does the Mara only show itself after a given time? But it's hard to say about these things without getting the balance of the story. Sutek's a very important...
You're doing the job of RTD. Boy, I mean, okay, given that you've got one more episode to go and that all that can be explained, fair enough. But I just find that we've been here before. It's become a trope with Russell T Davies. We had it with Yana, Professor Yana for the Master.
Oh, yeah, this is textbook Russell T Davies. All of it is.
So, mystery box. It's a bit tired. I'd like to see something else. I'd like it to be a complete shock rather than, oh, look. Isn't it funny, though, that at the start you had the anagram thing, and it's like, yes, of course, so obvious. And then at the end, they treat the audience as stupidly there, where they go, "Oh, Susan Technologies, Sutek." It's not even an anagram. Wrong anagram. It's like,
yeah, it was a bit of a lazy anagram. I have got to admit there. But like my first thought was when the episodes. I'm kind of going to start ranting here because I hated the fact that Russell had used Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter, as a red herring, as basically as a misdirect for the episode.
Yes.
I was like, no, Russell, you do not get to do that. That is one of the oldest, unresolved issues in Doctor Who, that the Doctor never went back for Susan. That is one of the most oldest unresolved issues in the show, and you basically use that as a way to basically use my feelings, and I was not happy with that. I was like, no, you do not do that to me. You do not do that.
This is the one character that we've all wanted to see brought back. He mentioned it on Instagram because somebody asked him about it on Instagram. No, the BBC put a picture out of Susan. That was it. They put a picture out of her last year when it was the anniversary, I think, of when she would have departed or something like that. And he said, "Oh, whatever happened to her?" And of course we all saw. And this was him being deliberately playful. It does seem very, very cruel. But
let's be honest. Russell T Davies' motivations for 99% of what he does is to wind people up, especially the long-term plans. And I find it strange for a man who's obsessed with saying that this is moving things forward, it's progressive. Yeah. He's always plundering the past. And for this new modern audience that he keeps talking about, this wonderful imaginary new audience that he's so proud of, won't have a clue who Sutek is. I've seen a few comments on.
Do they need to? Do they need to, Lee?
I mean, a lot of them say they're disappointed because who's this Sutek anyway? They were expecting something else.
So to them though, Lee, that means that Sutek is technically a new villain. You just said you'd like Russell T Davies. Yes, so he hasn't created Sutek, but Sutek isn't a character the general public are aware of. So to the general public, to the millions and millions of far more than Doctor Who fans, this will be something completely new.
Yes, this goes to the crux. This goes to the crux of the thing. The whole point really is, yes, you are plundering the past, and this is new to the new audience that allegedly exists. But why not create something new of your own, Russell? If you're going to bring in this new audience and you want to move things forward and not make it, rely on the past, which you continuously plunder the past.
But
I'd say
isn't he able to have? Isn't he able to have his? But isn't he able to have his cake and eat it by doing? Because we know they don't. If he does something new and interesting, he does something new and interesting,
what he did to Davros, and I don't trust him. After Davros, I was out.
Are we talking about? Well, he handled. Are we talking about the Davros thing for Children in Need last year, or in Journey's End and Stolen Earth?
That's how he is. No, at the end of the Children in Need special, which he said was now canon.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm as frustrated by that as you are, but I don't think we can. I don't think, and that was a massive dropped bollock. I know it was, but I don't think we should use that as a yardstick for everything that he's going to do. I mean, I did see lots of markers of his earlier stories in this. We traded out 3D glasses for a phantom sort of VHS tape in this, didn't we, to access another dimension in effect. So there was lots of Russell T Davies trappings in here, but when we haven't seen them this is the kind of Doctor Who that we've been crying out for before Russell came back. That we lamented this stuff. Here he is bringing us the stuff that works, that hits, and I feel to complain about it now could be somewhat churlish. I mean, yeah, if he came back and did this again every year, then I'd probably agree. But isn't this what people want?
No, I mean, it would have been if it would have been a successful season of Doctor Who. It hasn't been. It's now been attached to a show that is on its dying legs, and I think this is desperation, quite honestly, to bring.
But they didn't know that. They didn't know that when they shot this time last year, though, did they?
I think they knew. I think they were just trying to.
All of it will have been conceived. All of it will have been conceived the way that they always conceive these seasons, the way that Moffat did, the way that Chibnall did, such as it was. They've been conceived as a whole, and we want it to rise and fall here and to have this kind of shape. I mean, it has been quite shapeless, to tell you the truth. But I think that would have been the desire to take people to a conclusion and then deliver something that they know worked for people time and time again.
Too little, too
I
late.
think sadly, I think you could be right. I think a lot of people may feel that way. So, Gary, let's move to Gary so, Gary, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, where do you sit on this? Is this crowd pleasing Doctor Who that you think, if it doesn't bring people back, if it's a little bit too late, at least it'll please me for that 45 minutes? Or do you feel like you've seen it all before, or something in the middle?
Well, first of all, let me give a couple comments on Sutekh, and then I'll give my comments on a couple of other areas that the panel's been talking about. Just let me say that as far as Sutekh goes, that for me, loving the classic series as I do, that a 2024 giant CGI dog head has got nothing on the 1975 physical mask.
Exactly.
Less is more. I mean, if you go that way, you think, well, the doctor can solve this problem with an extra large box of milk bones, maybe in the next episode. Let me just say that in an episode that was filled to the brim with stuff that just drove me up the wall, I do want to take a minute to echo what Charlotte said and just acknowledge for me what was the one big positive, which is Bonnie Langford, who single-handedly redeemed this entire episode for me. I thought she was fantastic in every single scene she was in. I thought she schooled Millie Gibson in what a strong companion is all about. She had all the gravitas. She was resolute. She was charming. She was hyper-competent in the scene that Charlotte talked about, where I thought for sure was going to be, oh, here come the tears. When he was in the hall, we didn't get that. But, where Mel says basically, get off your butt and let's go deal with this. And then in the studio, while the doctor's distracted on the phone, she's the one that says, hello, look what's going on right down there. While Ruby for this episode to me was kind of like a giggly over emotional preteen. So, here's to you, Bonnie. I would be all in on a Mel spinoff as long as it wasn't done by RTD. As far as the doctor goes, it's really interesting that I kind of had a different interpretation of that one scene that Charlotte was talking about. To me, for the most part in this episode, I thought that Ncuti was good with what he was given to play, but to me, what he was being given to play wasn't the doctor. I just thought he still comes off as really too human and over emotional. The scene that Charlotte cited, where he's talking to Kate, I'm thinking, he knows that Susan Twist is a trap, so he won't go. How many times I thought to myself, has the actual Doctor boldly walked into a trap, to confront the enemy with no problem? And then I've got to say that
but Gary, I think there is part of him up until this very moment. There is a large part of him that believes that could be his granddaughter.
I get that, but I guess that wouldn't the longing, the desire to. But if that was the case, then he should know that it would be all right, that the two of them, he and Susan, could kind of figure it out together, as opposed to being the reason to stay away. And Dan, I got to say that I did have a problem with, at the end when Sutekh emerges, that he can only kind of stand there petrified in terror. I thought to myself, okay, so this guy was the oncoming storm. This guy ended the Time War. This guy's defeated legions of Daleks and Cybermen and Sontarans. And yet now he kind of stands petrified. And I do want to end by just kind of echoing a couple of things with Unit.
They've established that these gods, though, you've seen how he was,
but Sutekh wasn't a god.
About Maestro. Well, he's the god. He's the god of he's supposed to be the god of death in mythology, though, isn't he?
No, Sutekh wasn't a god. He was an alien that was sent down the time corridor to age to death at the end of Pyramids of Mars. That's been rewritten to make him a god on the level of the Greatest Show in the Galaxy gods and those others. But I do want to say that I totally agree with what Charlotte was saying about Unit. I just could not take this Unit seriously.
Why does the Doctor need the help of Unit? The Doctor should be out there solving this himself without going to Unit. Go, I need Captain.
Well, but here's why.
He knew, didn't he, that despite the fact they asked the question, he knew they'd got a time window. That was what I got them.
Well, but personally, I mean, my theory, my kind of meta theory on that is, I actually think that RTD has stock in the used VHS market because he's clearly trying to resurrect interest in VHS tapes as the go-to form for home entertainment. I mean, so let me get this straight. So Ruby and her mom like to watch a blurry, snowy VHS tape every Christmas. I thought they must not get a lot of neighbors showing up at that party, but
it's all very romanticized, isn't it? If that's all you've got, then that's all you've got. You would hang on to that, wouldn't you? You definitely would.
Well, yeah. And the thing about Unit, I just thought that, Kate Stewart, who, just to me, honestly, I think there's promise to that character, but I just never really bought into that character. She always seems kind of like 10 seconds, behind. And as Charlotte said, we have a 13-year-old scientific advisor. We have the Blinks. They have an employee with the name H. Arbinger, and considering what they do every day, apparently thought that was just fine.
But it's so obvious.
And why in heaven's name? Why in heaven's name is Rose there? I can only figure that
and
this was. I can only figure.
I must admit, I have no idea. I thought that what's her name? Yasmin Finney was pretty good in this, perfectly okay.
Well,
but I've still got no idea what the character is meant to be doing there, apart from fetching the tea.
The Brigadier would be saying Liberty Hall at this very moment.
No, I figured, you know what this was, John? You know what this was? I think this was take your child to work at a classified military installation day. That's kind of what I think it was. And if she does work there, why is she dressed like she's headed to a rugby match?
Yeah,
I couldn't figure that out.
It's not just that, Gary. It's also where Kate tells the Doctor that the brig told her classified unit stories round the fireplace. It's like that's the last thing the Brigadier would do. Oh, I'm going to tell you about the Zygons. Get a cup of cocoa. It just wouldn't happen.
It's like the thing with Kate. For me, it's the way she's written half the time.
Yeah,
like boring. In The Giggle, she was written as a blithering idiot that she told all the soldiers to keep shooting at the toy maker, even though you've got the Doctor screaming at you not to do it. He's got Spice Girls playing. He's turned them into bouncy balls. But just keep telling them to shoot, Kate, because that's going to solve it. And then here, she gets choked up because one soldier gets killed.
I refuse to believe she's the daughter of the Brigadier. She's got a personality vacuum. I'm sorry.
Well,
no
it's not
way.
just that, Lee.
Lee,
it's not just that. It's like, I'm sorry, in your position at unit, how many years have you been head of unit?
Right.
You must have lost a lot of people, Kate. You must have lost a lot
This
of
character has now been on screen.
And they still haven't put rails on the platform outside, which shocked me because I thought
this character,
people falling off. But here's the thing: at the end of the day, the last thing I'll say is, would I trust the Brig, Sergeant Benton, Captain Yates, Sergeant Osgood, and even Corporal Bell to save the world? Absolutely. This bunch, no.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Can I just say that I absolutely agree. I would rather have those 70s buildings in the middle of nowhere with fields everywhere.
Yes.
Right? I would rather have that than the Avengers level tower that we have in the middle of London. Right? When we all thought Avengers Tower.
Yeah, everybody saw it right away. Yeah. I can't stand it either.
Yeah, we all thought Avengers Tower, didn't we? And so I looked at that in the 60th, and I was just like, oh, that's going to look so awesome. Oh, unit's finally gotten a level up. That's going to look awesome. And, it might be even leaning into like a live action unit spin-off. I'd love that. And then unit's just been freaking useless the entire goddamn time. So I would much rather have the unit with Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart every day of the week than with.
Well, have you noticed that, James? Have you noticed, James, that every time that unit appears now? In fact, this was happening in Russell T Davies' original series as well, original run. It tends to be the characters that we latch onto, the more interesting ones that actually get killed. The various colonels and lieutenants. She's kind of latch on. Oh, the guy from Manchester. He seems like a nice bloke.
I thought Shudi's best played scene in this. I'm being honest. I thought, because I ran it back a couple of times because I thought that was really well done. The scene where Shudi just kind of busts out laughing at the time window and says,
great.
"What kind of absurd lash up is this?" I thought that is the best scene.
One of several really great moments for the 15th Doctor in this.
One of the worst, I would say, though, is, and I hated it when the season trailer first came out, was the TARDIS coming down and crashing through into unit.
Why have we got to have the sonic boom? Why have we got to?
And also, they've even got a protocol for it. So Kate says there's a protocol.
Yes.
What all of a sudden, after 61 years, is wrong with the TARDIS just dematerializing and materializing?
It's like
I don't know.
Exciting enough for the people with no attention span. That's what it's for.
I mean, you would think that keeping that element of it modest would actually mean that when everything else gets big and extravagant and cartoon-like, you've got a nice contrast there of something that's quite quaint and old-fashioned, but it's against the backdrop of these monsters and darkness and an enormity. That you've still got the little box that disappears and reappears. I love that. And another thing, while I've got this fresh in my mind, I want to say too that one reason I was particularly not dreading this, but why I was what got my doubts about this was the 15th Doctor's outfits. I haven't liked most of them in this season. I questioned their entire judgment on this. And when I saw him wearing a Magic Mike style biker stripper outfit, I thought, oh God, here we go. But actually on screen, I found it completely different. And the outfit is actually quite understated when you see it on screen. So much so that I felt that it allowed the performance to kind of come through a little bit more, because he was wearing something that, the jacket's a little bit shiny, and who would wear cowboy boots with that unless they intended to take it all off to, as I said the other day, to a hot chocolate track. But because it's not a garish colour, because it's not particularly extravagant, you get to focus on, just like Christopher Eccleston's Doctor, you get to focus on the character, and he gets to, in my view, really sell us on the idea that he's the Doctor in this. I mean, as you say, Lee, it could, in that respect, again, it could be too little, too late. I don't know. And before we go over to the live chat, I just want to say my piece on this. I found this episode absolutely thrilling from start to finish. I friggin' loved it. I was on the edge of my seat for the majority of it as the tension built up. I loved how extravagant it was in places, how romantic it was. The sense of dread and foreboding as well, and the sense of fun too. And I really was guessing, right to the very, very end. The hokey stuff too, the stuff like the anagrams, it's all very easy to work out, and the things that are easy for us to follow as veterans who've consumed not just Doctor Who, but masses of cult TV and movies over the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years, however long you've been walking the planet and watching this stuff. But for the family audience, I think this was pretty much pitch perfect. And yeah, it was blueprint exactly what Russell did before. I'd like to think he won't do this every single year, but because I haven't seen this for 15 years, I don't think I think the giggle was different to this. I think the giggle was less crowd pleasing than this. I think it was idiosyncratic in a way that this isn't. I think this is proper blockbuster entertainment. That if only more people were bloody watching that hadn't been driven away over the last few weeks, I think that had they started with something, or at least had something as strong, as formidable as this a lot earlier, then the things may be looking slightly differently. The fortunes may be looking slightly brighter at this point in the series history. Where we currently are.
Your audience would go away in no uncertain terms and cast a racist. Just saying.
No, but that's extraneous to what's on screen, though, isn't it? I mean, none of that stuff helps. I mean, it's extraneous. I mean, not everybody sees that stuff, Lee. We do, because we jump on it, and some of it makes its way through to the general public. Of course, it does,
and
it has
behind it. It does drip.
It does come through. It perforates. It does. It does soak through in places.
Oh yeah,
and it doesn't help. I mean, I said the other night, Bonnie Langford gave a fabulous interview to TV Choice, Lee. I don't know if you've seen that, and it was a breath of fresh air because she talked about the character, she talked about the story, she talked about the viewing public, and it was just lovely. It was normal, and I think more of that obviously would help. But I appreciate that for some of us, it's very hard to hit the play button or to sit down at 6:30 or 6:45 or whatever, and to be completely free of any nonsense that they've put out in the press that week. I appreciate it's very, very hard. This week they haven't really said a great deal, so it's been a lot easier. I generally speaking, just everybody's different, aren't they? I can cut loose from stuff like that. I can separate the art from the artist more often than not, but there's no wrong answers to that, is there? No, none at all. Let's go and check in with the people in the live chat and see what they've got to say about all of this, and our first round of thoughts on this episode, The Legend of Ruby Sunday.
I'm Leela over 70, and you should watch Type 40.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience, your comments, and everything that you've been dropping in the live chat there across YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and on X. Glenn Piper was here earlier on, and he says, "Hi, guys, I've watched this story already today with my mum, and it's absolutely fantastic. I won't say any spoilers, but this is the best first part to a finale that I've seen in years. They've nailed it." So Glenn's a very, very happy punter. Good to have you back there, Glenn. GJD, really enjoyed it. It actually felt like Doctor Who. The middle was boring. So that was what you said, wasn't it, Charlotte? That you felt it lagged in the middle as well, didn't you?
And I think what he's referring to here, because Sutek had sort of been murmured and talked about, I do think you sort of were almost waiting that you wouldn't have been if it hadn't already been out in the ether. Yeah. That was going to be the big sort of shocking end part of this.
GJD does go on to say, "I feel like all of Russell T Davies' ideas have been great, but they've all ended bad. It's like he needs someone to come in and edit." Do you think he's got too much power at the moment, James, just like JGD says there?
I was in mid-cough when you started talking there. I do apologise. What were you saying? Sorry.
Do you think that Russell... Not that he's past it as such, but do you think he's kind of got too much power, and the fact that he can, because he can rewrite other people, can't he? And he's got script editors. But do you think that he's simply got too much editorial control over this show?
I think that someone definitely after Chibnall's era said to him, "You can do whatever the hell you like. Just please save us, for goodness sake, Russell. Please, for the love of God, save us." I think someone definitely said that in that exact tone of voice that I used. And so I think that someone definitely begged him to come back. And so I think that someone did say you can do whatever the hell you like. And so I think that it was I've always been in the thinking that it was silly for anyone really those slightly more to the right kind of fans who thought that Russell was going to save them from all of this wokeness that they had said that Chibnall had done. I think it was rather silly that people had thought that Russell was going to save them from any of that. And I immediately just went, did you watch any of Russell's work outside of Doctor Who over the last 12 years? Did you watch
this is true, but I think the general objection that most people had was no. I don't think anybody objects, for example, to diversity. That word we're all a bit sick of diversity, but I think that people are sick of forced diversity and forced agenda. That's what. Because it's so difficult to digest it all and to because it breaks the spell when they're watching the thing. I think it's as simple as that. Really, we've got Thistle Beaks Bird Cams in the live chat here who says I didn't like this episode at all. It felt like 80% of it was filler. That's quite harsh, I think, John. I thought it was all. Most scenes were integral to what was going on. What do you think about this?
I enjoyed it. I disagree with what Thistle said, but I respect for what he's saying. But this was the one episode actually of the season I've actually enjoyed, purely because it was starting to make a move back to kind of Doctor Who for me. I think I've said before, I think if he had actually tried to make the rest of the season in a similar vein, probably would have got, with all the other stuff outside and the marketing and PR, I think he could have actually had a much more successful show than what we've got. So yeah, it was a good episode. I enjoyed it.
It's a pity it's not been on for more weeks because Thistle Beak again says here, I thought the whole subplot of the time window to try and see Ruby's mother was kind of pointless too. This does hinge on how much you feel, how much you want to know the answer to these questions, and how much we like and have connected with Ruby. If we don't like her or don't know her particularly well, Gary, we're not going to give a tinker's cuss, are we?
Well, for the thing about it is, I mean, for me, that sequence was very confusing because it didn't seem like they'd really set up the rules, so to speak, about how that worked. I mean, to me, it was like a 3D reproduction of a video recording. They're not being projected back in time. So why are they worrying about whether the mom can see them? And why is that colonel responding like with a gun, like it's anything more than like they're in the middle of a movie? I mean, they're acting like what was happening around them in that enclosure was real. So I was just kind of confused about the whole setup for that sequence.
Yeah,
I find that the whole idea really of bringing Sutek back in this modern era doesn't work without the Gothic element. I think because it tapped in to that period of time, it tapped into that Gothic horror, and it had that slow build. And because it's an end of,
it belongs, didn't it? It belonged to something greater.
Yeah, it lacks that. And I think when you bring him back and he's this overbearing CGI monstrosity that's completely over-designed, which is so typical of Russell T. Davies. Everything has to be bigger and better than ever before. And it always just comes off as really quite tacky to me.
Yeah.
Because it's just so... It's so style over substance. And it's great to hear Gabriel Wolf's fantastic voice.
Yes.
That is wonderful. But I do feel that the way that he came back with the jumbling of the words, and it was just unnecessary. So that long monologue from the Harbinger, it just went on forever and ever and ever, a bit too long. And all the time, you just got Tuti Gatwa just standing there with his mouth agape and his eyes popping out of his head.
I will say, though, I do want to say, Dan, though, that the way that the Susan Twist kind of moderated her performance from, being fun and nice to increasingly more panicked into the way that they kind of built that up, I thought that she did a really good job of
fabulous actress,
helping build you know, the worry about like something was coming, and even when they did that big reveal with the you know, her face kind of being what it was, I actually thought that was effective. So I do want to kind of give a shout out to her. I thought she did a good job.
Yeah, that looked good.
I agree. I agree with that. I think that I would have much preferred the Sutek reveal if it was just solely Susan Triad. If it was just solely her and that reveal, I would have been fine. But the big CGI dog, it did take me out of the reveal a little bit. And
I want him with his mask on, you know.
Walking around.
The sight of this character, this woman who looks like everybody's a young Nan, and a unit of established. She's a nice woman. We've seen her be nice to Mel, and Mel's nice back.
She looked like Mavis from Coronation Street.
Yeah.
You couldn't not like her, and so to see her broken down and consumed and possessed and used as a vessel,
that was good.
It was spectacular, and it was chilling, and we felt for it. It was one of the few really standard kind of vintage Russell T Davies characters I feel we've had in this entire season. It's been sorely lacking in those great characters that he built so well in the earlier era.
Well, in the good way, it reminded me of with the Master when he was torturing the Doctor, when he made him age, when he did that increased aging and you heard the screams and you could hear almost the bones. And I agree, that moment when she's screaming, that for me was the moment when I was like, okay, now we're in the big boys sort of, now we've got something really this Doctor's going to have to really work now to defeat this, whatever this is. I suppose, like I said, we all guess Sutek, but and so for me, actually, I think it worked because you had that physical aspect, you had the performance, you had the, like you said, the look, which I think is very striking, the way they've got her looking now. Yeah. And it will be interesting, I think, next week, because you'll have the voice of Gabriel, but you'll still have her physically doing the performance. And I think that's actually such a fascinating way to do a villain, to almost have two beings in one character, and you're having to see that on screen. So I'm
expecting it to develop, and for Sutek to take some sort of humanoid form myself. I just want to talk about this comment we got in the live chat here from Mega Neurobyte, who says, I'm wondering if anyone has asked Ruth Madeley how she felt about being replaced by Lenny Rush. Good. So this is Maurice Gibbons, the 13-year-old sort of prodigy character who's been made into a kind of super genius by passing comets. Did he say something like that? Yes. I thought this was a fascinating character. I've never seen this actor in anything before. He was perfectly fine. I have to say, though, I quite like Ruth Madeley too, and I did sort of miss her as Shirley Bingham. She is back in the next season, though. I do know that. So whether they're going to rotate them, who knows? But what did you think of this character? What did you think of this character, John?
I actually didn't mind him, but did he go up to Ruth Madeley and go, chances of you being replaced by me, 100%?
Oh
God!
I'm sorry there wasn't rocket launchers on his little.
Well, we got another episode to come, mate.
The night is young. Mega Neurobyte goes on to say it was the second worst episode after Rogue. Ooh, I thought this was the best episode. In my view, this was. I mean, I've enjoyed some of these episodes a lot, but to me, this is the best episode of Doctor Who. The best episode of Doctor Who. I'm not talking about my favourite in a good 10 years. I thought it was absolutely outstanding. But lots of people here don't agree. We've got you rate it as a 3 there. Perhaps, but I thought this was. But I personally think this was really, really strong. Connor gives it an 8. This is my kind of episode, but I can see the things that people won't like. We've got from you there, Charlotte. We're gradually catching up here. That's the beauty of the fact that this is available for people to watch all day. People have been leaving comments all day as well. Oliver Joe Bears says, really enjoyed that episode. Felt like an ending from Russell T Davies' first era. Really happy to see Sutek, but can't wait to see him in action. That's it. They've stopped it just as things were about to kick off.
But I was dreading it, and now it's here. I'm just like, oh, please.
But don't destroy it.
But
John's set up before, I think there's a lot of appeal in John's idea about you kind of maybe, slow build the harbingers and stuff, to the main menace. I mean, there's a lot of merit in that idea. They just didn't have the time.
See, the thing is, I have a problem with shooting Katwa and his part as the Doctor.
Yeah.
I am actually rooting for Sutek to shred his fibers into a million, shred his nervous system into a million fibers. Quite honestly,
his performance has got steadily. How much I've been rooting for him. I like a lot of what he's doing, but over the last few weeks, I have to say he's really fallen in my estimations, and so it was reassuring to see him kind of back on form. Can you have form when you've only played it for a few weeks? I thought he was really strong in this, but again, I think it does. Regrettably, I do feel that it could prove too little, too late for the general public. Yeah. Ben Casey says, I enjoyed that episode. Watched it with my mum, and she liked it too. Get the mums in. Get the mums in, James. Do you think this has got a chance of getting the mums, the dads, the cousins, the uncles, the aunties, the little brothers and sisters? What do you think?
I think that if any fan that has grown up with Doctor Who since the 1970s, I think that this has definitely got a chance for them to sit down with a younger audience, for the granddads to sit down with their young grandchildren of like about 13, 14, 15 years old and just basically sit down with them and go, hey, granddad, who the heck is Sutek? And then they can just go, well, go on iPLAYER. I've got a great story for you to watch. Pyramids of Mars. Go and watch that, and then you've got a great story to watch. So they'll sit down and watch that. And I got to tell you, I absolutely love that for Sutek's return in general, because
but will they though? Because
I like to think
slow for them. I think
I like to think they will, because when I because when the Master very first came back in 2007, and we very first heard those words from Professor Yana, and then he kills Puachantho. When he kills Puachantho, my first thought was, oh my God, who the hell's the Master? And as soon as Utopia had finished, I went onto my family computer. I didn't have my own electronics at that time, so it was just a shared family kind of computer. So I went onto the computer and I went and watched all the Doctor Who archive on the Doctor Who website. They'd have like an archive section of all Doctors of old from 1 to 8, and so I went back and watched all of the Masters sort of old videos with Roger Delgado, and then I went on and I watched all of the old Master stories that I possibly could with John
binge watched.
Yes, that was my first. That was my first. Yes, binge watching is very much a common thing now, but back then it wasn't. So the classic series was a lot less accessible back then. So I could not. I was absolutely scrounging about everywhere to try and find a classic story. So I was looking about for all sorts of Master stories. And so by the time it got to the next week with The Sound of Drums, and I was introduced to John Sims Master properly, I was an encyclopedic knowledge of the Master. I'd worked on it.
I remember.
I'd worked on it all week after school.
That was definitely universal. My children, they were around, or my twins were around 5 or 6 when that was broadcast. And my girlfriend at the time as well, she had no idea who the Master was. And see all these people in my life, wanted to know more. I mean, I remember first seeing the Pyramids of Mars on VHS tape way back in the late 80s, and I was aware that some stories were better thought of than others. And some villains' names sort of stuck in your memory. But when these stories at the time were locked in the archives, Lee, do you remember? We couldn't access these things. It was absolute agony. We had to wait for this sort of drip of stories on VHS. I really do envy. People that they get it all everywhere at the moment, that it's just so accessible.
Well, there are enough people to care about it now. I mean, will there be enough people watching this to tell their kids? Are there any kids watching this? I know Russell thinks there is, but
Russell seems convinced. I'm going to say
I don't know, the numbers don't add up, Russell. I'm sorry.
I've got that quote coming up too.
Shouldn't in the first 5 minutes of the next episode, if you think about it, shouldn't Shooty and Mel be taking her scooter over to Donna's house and getting the 14th Doctor to help?
Yep.
That's the drawback of the way they ended the giggle, because every situation like that, that's going to be what you think. Go get the other Doctor to help you because he's right there.
Yeah, while Gatwa's standing there in a catatonic state, you might as well get a real Doctor back.
It is strange when you've got this godlike entity that strikes fear into the Doctor, that there is another Doctor. Yeah, he is in retirement, and I actually like this whole strand, and I do like what Russell was saying with all of this, particularly at the 60th anniversary. But you're quite right. The fact that he's not retired, has he? But he's taken a kind of, I suppose for us, it'd be the equivalent of taking a city break or something like that for a weekend.
Antithetical to the Doctor. He'd never do anything like that. Absolutely.
To be fair though, we do see him struggling with it on screen, and I do expect that he probably is still struggling with it off screen.
Right, but for situations like this,
but the simple fact of the matter is that when it comes to the crunch, as not just as fans but as casuals, when everybody knows there is another Doctor living a few streets away, it does stand out. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think. But what I do want to happen, to be honest, I'm like you, Dan. I'm somebody who's seen a lot of good in Shooty's Doctor, but I also think they've done incredibly stupid stuff with his Doctor, and they've done risks that didn't need to be done with his Doctor.
Things that take a lot of walking back.
Yeah, it's like
that were done in a split second.
It's been in such a mix. Like, I think that at this current time, 15 has got so many things, good and bad, going on at him, going for him at the same time.
He's awful.
I think for you, Lee. I think actually this could be a real defining, proving moment for this Doctor.
This is kind of, in many ways, Charlotte. I know it's early days for him, but this is kind of his last chance to make an impact with the public.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. The fact that this is Sutekh. This is such a level of power and villain he has to face now. And I think there's going to be something with Ruby going along with Sutekh. There's some link there. So I just think this needs to be the moment. By the end of the second part next week, we need to see Shooty's Doctor absolutely come out on top in a good way. He doesn't have to make Sutekh completely go or disappear, just some way.
Well, yeah. We should certainly have a far clearer idea of what his Doctor's all about, what his capabilities are, and a feeling that the series is in safe hands, and that it's been inherited by. The role has been inherited by an actor who, even if he isn't embodying it all right now, John, that he may well do sooner rather than later. And when you've only got 8 weeks, I said before these even aired, every single one, they couldn't afford any stinkers in this run. And sadly, there has been a couple. Yeah. David Mullen in the live chat says, I'm ready for Russell T Davies to go. The series needs a complete reset and a safer pair of hands. I mean, in many respects, the sad thing is that Russell T Davies is probably the safest pair of hands in the country. He is. But there are other people out there who I think,
because the Fitzroy gang have their claws all over this.
Yeah, I don't actually think it needs a safe pair of hands, Lee. I think it needs somebody who's bold. I think it needs somebody who's perhaps a little younger, although that's not, I don't want to be ageist about it. They don't have to be. But I think there's somebody who's bolder, who has a wealth of stories in their head, Lee, that maybe they've been waiting to tell.
I agree. But I don't think you're going to get that with the Fitzroy clan. I think they are stayed. I think they're repeating themselves. They've run out of ideas. And I think it does need to go to someone bold, someone younger perhaps, and someone with a vision. I just don't think they have it. I think that they've gone round and round in circles trying to repeat old glories. And I just don't think you're going to get there. And I think the audience has kind of sniffed that out. And I think he's taking the wrong kind of risks, let's put it that way. But it's risk based on the member berries and the tried and tried formats. And I think really you do need fresh blood. I just don't think you're going to get that.
I think he should be a kind of Barry Letts figure too, and there should be a John Nathan Turner. I think it should be like in 1980. when Barry Letts was the executive producer and John Nathan Turner was producer, I think that he should be bringing somebody up. Well, if he wants to be the godfather of the show indefinitely,
because it'll be his pick still. You know what I mean? It'll still be.
Yeah, I think that's unavoidable. But the series was in the toilet bowl. It did need Russell to pick it out of the water. But I do think that sooner rather than later, there should be somebody lined up who he can kind of pass the reins to. We've got Robert Payne in the live chat here too. Sunak technology was the baddie, says Robert. And Char's in here as well. She's kicking around. And Adrian James is in as well. Evening, everyone. We've got a bam from Lord Thoth. Bam.
Can I draw your attention to a comment that I read that I think was very, very interesting?
Yes, if you could tell me where it is, absolutely. I'll try and get to them.
Mega Nutrabyte. Can I just read it, or do you want to?
Yeah, you read it by all means. Yeah.
It says, plot hole alert. If Sutek possessed the TARDIS in Wild Blue Yonder, then why is he possessing Shooty's TARDIS and not David's? That's an interesting thought. I don't know.
Oh, very good.
Well, didn't technically Shooty's TARDIS split almost away from Tennant's TARDIS?
After Wild Blue Yonder,
I would say
I didn't get the impression that he possessed the TARDIS since all the way back then. At all. I think that it's something to do with the video cassette and do with.
There was a scene because I saw online somebody put a montage of all the groaning scenes, and there was that scene from Wild Blue Yonder where the TARDIS groans and Donna says, "Is that normal?" and Tennant says, "That's odd." And so I think they were trying to link up the groaning as far back as that.
Maybe I expect some of it will be clarified next week, but I certainly didn't get the impression that it had been in possession of the TARDIS the entire time. More that he'd been trying to get hold of it and trying to get a foothold in our world.
Doug Sims says, all the other doctors.
Well, you could say that, but that's the linear nature of broadcasting TV about a character that exists in a non-linear way. I suppose it's the idea of why do the Master and the Doctor always meet one another on TV in line with each other's incarnations, whereas in Big Finish you've got Geoffrey Beaver's Master meeting the Troughton Doctor.
There is a linear time that all the Doctor's timelines sort of go along, and it's like that's why you got 60s looking aliens in the 60s and you got 70s looking aliens in the 70s. It's because it's like some kind of universal weird time thing. There you go.
That's good enough for me. It's certainly good enough for Russell. I should send that into him. Get a fag packet and write it on the back. I think that's his preferred method of delivery for new ideas to be submitted. Robert Payne says the legend of Ruby Sunday, which told us nothing new about Ruby Sunday. Is that fair, Charlotte? I don't suppose we want to know it's
actually. Because, like I said, because a lot of it was just talking about that night with Ruby, wanting to see her mum, which, of course, makes absolute sense for the character. She's never met her mum. She's clearly always wanted to meet her. But we've had this. We had it in the church on Ruby Road. We've had it throughout this series. So I feel like Ruby actually got a bit underserved here as a character. When it comes to anything of depth, it was just, I just want to find my mum, which has sort of been her arc whole series, really, if you think about it.
Can we possibly theorize as to who we think the hooded woman is and who the woman is? Because I'm kind of hoping it is Susan. I'm hoping that Russell didn't just tease me with that for no goddamn reason.
Me too.
I would say for me, and I'm not as hot on my Egyptology as I used to be, but I think it's Isis, because Isis, from memory, was a god, an Egyptian god that would hide from the other gods, but also was the god of birth or rebirth, but also was the protector of her child Horus, which was protected it from scorpions and insects.
She was the wife of Osiris, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that it could be Isis. And also, Susan Flood says she sticks to the shadows and she knows that he's coming when she looks out the window.
She was also the goddess that went around looking for all the parts of Osiris and found everything apart from his penis.
That's it. Yeah. I feel sorry for the person that found that, Lee.
Hey, John, are you talking about this ISIS?
No, and also not the terrorist.
Because that would be great if she showed up.
Oh, I've seen that series. Yeah, it looks really fun.
The other thing I was going to say as well is what we were talking about the 14th Doctor a few minutes ago. I think that the 14th Doctor will be in the finale because that's a big writing block that he's put in there, because he needs to address that. Because you're all right, if a big bad like that turns up, you have to have both Doctors there. And I will go further than that. I actually think you will see at some point, whether it's next episode or soon, you will see those two merge together in sort of like a regeneration complex. Because Ncuti says in this season, doesn't he, earlier on, he's not whole, he's been split in half. And I think
torn apart or split apart or something like that.
Did you notice as well in that long monologue from the Harbinger, whatever you want to pronounce, then she mentioned the other.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking.
Yeah, so did I.
And I was speaking to my friend Jack about this. He said that he reckons because they're going to make out the timeless child is effectively a god, one of the pantheon. I think that possibly might be true. That might be
not a chance.
I hope not.
No.
Russell doesn't. Russell, I don't think Russell plans on doing anything with the timeless child at all, other than use it. I think what we've seen. I hate talking about this subject. It's so frigging boring. But the timeless child. I understand why it still cuts deep for a lot of people. But in my view, what he's done is. Forget about what he's saying or the lip service he's paying. What he's actually done is reach into that nonsense and used it as a kind of fuel in some way to just give the Doctor a little more angst, I suppose, and he jettisoned the rest. I don't expect there's going to be any mythologizing about it. I don't think they're going to embed it any deeper in that respect. It'll barely ever be mentioned again. I think what will be mentioned will be the development of the character. What uncertainty about his own identity has done to inform the Doctor, to change his perception of himself. I don't think we're going to see any more mauling of mythology, any more attachment of anything like that. I can see why people are braced for it, because that was painful what went on then, but really we're powering away from that already. I think that's, as I say, that Russell's saying a lot of things, but he's doing something completely different. Whether that's going anywhere that's worth going, I don't know. I'd argue probably not. I wish he'd just left it all alone entirely, but I think it could be going somewhere else. Awesome 50 is in the live chat here on YouTube, Charlotte, and says it's great to see Mel again, just like you said. And Gemma Redgrave acted the socks off everyone. Shooting Atwell was terrible, though. Cementing my feeling that he's just not the Doctor. And Awesome also thinks it's terrible CGI on Sutek. I thought the CGI was outstanding. I think Shooty's been the best he's been in several weeks. Probably the best that we've seen him so far. Gemma, I have to say, I've been willing Gemma Redgrave to succeed in this character for 12 years.
And you're still willing, John.
Because I do kind of like the actress. And it's not that I don't think they've cast her badly. I just think that it's been such a snail's pace to develop it. How could I not lose interest?
I think that she's
there's nothing there at all, is there?
I think that she's had one great scene, which is the war scene in the Zygons episode with Pertwee, where she's standing there with the box. I thought that was her one great scene. So
where she ran away?
No, where she's there wanting to push the button on the box to start in the Zygons.
Okay.
Lord Thoth said this is more bad than good. Thank you, Lord Thoth. Good to have you back. We've got Paul Richards in the live chat as well, and we've got Peter Harrington says what's he say? It's more likely shows up how poor this Doctor is. It is a season cliffhanger. So I don't know can't quite work out what you mean by that one, but I'd better clarify. Yeah. We have, yes, another suggestion here for Toby Whithouse. Somebody always comes up with that. Thank you, Paul Richards. I think Toby Whithouse would be, he would probably be my pick, actually. Somebody with a very bold voice, and the stories that he generally chooses to tell are very, very distinctive. He's now working on a series with Mark Gatiss, which I expect to do very, very well. And it's a pity, obviously, that Doctor Who's lost is very much his gain. Mark the Illusionist is in and says we need script editors back on Doctor Who.
Yep.
I've got a question for everybody, though, because Bonnie in that interview said, "Oh, there's a devastating moment," and I couldn't see anything here unless you're counting the Sutek reveal.
I think it's the acting of Regre.
No, I think maybe it might be like she's talking about next episode. Maybe.
Yeah, but that's what I'm thinking, because now Ruby is separated from the Doctor. She's in Unit HQ with Sutek. The Doctor is with Mel at this building, and we know that we're not going to get a full series of Millie next time. So do we think something's going to happen to Ruby next episode?
Well, we still have that kind of, from the trailer, maybe. We still have that kind of squat and scream shot.
Yes, that as well.
That I've always thought that's going to be the final shot of the finale. That's how they're going to end the season, with that shot. Because then that could give, if she's not in the Christmas episode, that's the out for that she's temporarily gone. That's just my theory.
Yeah, I think that really that Ruby is going to be revealed to. I think the most accurate theory that I can really think of is who had brought up about the Ruby's mother being maybe the goddess of life or something. Who'd brought that up?
That was you, wasn't it, John?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I thought that is probably the most accurate theory that I can really think of right now. Obviously, going to have to wait a week to find out, but I think that is probably the most appropriate thing that I can think of, and so I think that that's going to give Ruby's character some sort of huge purpose that she's been maybe waiting for this entire series to sort of culminate towards. And so when it gets down to the end, it kind of maybe feels like, I've maybe Ruby's kind of going to go to the Doctor and say, I've fulfilled my what I feel like I needed to do. I feel like I can maybe do this with you part-time, but I need to get on with my life the rest of the time. And so kind of like how Amy Pond and Rory Williams were towards the end of their tenure as companions, where they were a little bit more kind of.
So do you think that if she doesn't get an answer, or the answer she's looking for, she might get to a place that she can live with, where she can sort of move forward and want to take up the reins of her real life?
I would love it if there was some sort of message with Ruby about she's been so desperate to find out who her mother is, who her real mother is, that maybe then she, when she discovers that her mother is someone evil or someone, that she doesn't want to be her mother, or whatever it is, maybe that she might then learn a valuable lesson about accepting the mother who did raise her, who did in fact give her the upbringing that she actually does.
Doesn't she already do that though?
What? Sorry.
Doesn't she already do that though? I mean,
well,
her relationship with,
they seem quite close.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I suppose it does kind of seem like they do seem quite close, the both of them, and so it does seem like that she sort of stays that balance between accepting her actual upbringing but also needing to know where she actually came from. And so it's a story as old as time. There's a ton of movies and a ton of TV shows where these characters, they are orphans and they're forgotten children and they don't know where they come from, but there's a ton of literature out there that sort of goes with this idea. And so it just kind of depends if Russell goes down somewhere a little bit more cliched like, you know, I've found my real mother. Now I can move on with my life, kind of thing.
What I've noticed as well about Russell is, for a man who's an avowed atheist, he talks about religion and faith quite a lot. And in this, I felt we got a certain amount of, if not religious iconography, then certainly kind of leaning in to that way of telling stories. When he says the father and the mother and the other, when Harriet's possessed and she's reciting that. Yeah, Peter Harrington mentions the other was mentioned in Remembrance of the Daleks, the Hand of Omega. It's all that, the idea of the Cartmel master plan, wasn't it? The Doctor was going to be revealed to be the other. In this instance, though, what I think it is, when he says the father, the mother, and the other, I actually think it's kind of like the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. I think he's talking about something. I think he's exactly. I think that he's talking about something. You know, so you've got normal sort of procreation, father and a mother, and you've got something of this a physical thing, and then you've got something manifest of the spirit from an elsewhere, and I think that's what he's talking about. I think it's kind of a Holy Ghost.
Mother and father thing is definitely within this, and I think that the other is the Doctor in this. So I that's why I think there is something to all this. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, I see what you mean. What about this? What about this? So Josh H mentions Mrs. Flood there. He likes the idea of Mrs. Flood being related to the River Nile. We've got several comments about Mrs. Flood. Of course, Ruby's family live next door, don't they, to this character who had that breaking the fourth wall moment at the end of the Christmas special, and everybody loved that. And I think everybody in Britain loves Anita Dobson. Certainly, if you're old enough to remember her in EastEnders, she just had one scene in this, or two scenes. It was very memorable, very mysterious. And it does seem that if she's not a wrong 'un, she's maybe a psychic or something like that. She seems to be sort of possessed, or she's pretending in her everyday life to be something she's not for whatever reason or another. Do you think this is going somewhere? Could she be Ruby's mother? Could she be a familiar of one of the gods, if not Sutekh himself and someone else?
I always remember, Dan, reading the Target novelization of Pyramids of Mars. And it does that brilliant introduction to Pyramids of Mars, where it talks about the Assyrian race and how they've enslaved people on Earth with robots. So the Assyrians, although Sutekh was imprisoned, aren't particularly nice as a race anyway. So that would kind of fit into being of the same race as Sutekh. Not a god; they're an alien race. So I could certainly see that.
She's definitely not a normal human being. I remember in the church in Ruby Road, it wasn't so much the TARDIS line, because I thought, that's Russell having a bit of fun. It was the fact that she didn't know what a TARDIS was. She came across very normal, like having a go at the bloke because she thought he'd parked it to annoy her in front of the house. And then she literally sort of beckoned Ruby to go in at the end of the episode. So for me, it was like she clearly knows something. And to have these scenes, I think she's either been a long sort of term plant almost to be in that space.
So she could be, if she's psychic, if she's a sort of open conduit and receptive to some sort of psychic link with something or someone, either needn't necessarily be the same thing every time. You think that's what's happening, and that she's actually oblivious to all of this when she does get possessed, like at the end of that special, because clearly Sutekh, it looks like Sutekh wanted Ruby to meet the Doctor. So maybe this
is what I mean. I think it's not a coincidence she's a neighbour to Ruby, because like I said, there's a link with Ruby and Sutekh. There's something supernatural. We've still not got the answer about the snow or about a couple of other things about Ruby.
Yeah.
And I think it's not, and like think about she's now got actually quite a vulnerable person to Ruby. She's got the grandmother. So she could actually use that. So I think she's been a long time sort of plant.
She's Shruti and Rogue's offspring. They had he regenerated into a woman later on, had an affair with Rogue, and then she's the daughter. There you go.
Let me put this out there for your consideration. This may be a stretch. I'm not going to say what it means. I did notice that in what was probably my biggest wait, what moment in this episode, where Shruti gives that what I considered an oversimplistic and wholly inaccurate summary of regeneration for the new viewers, where it says Time Lords regenerate their face like a disguise so that they can hide away with a new face. And I was kind of rocked by that, because it's like, what are you talking about? But
Gary, he was talking to a 19-year-old girl.
No, I know. I did notice, Dan, my point I was going to make, though, is that notice later on when Mrs. Flood comes up to the apartment, she says, all I do is hide away in my apartment.
Yes.
And I've been so kind of, I was still rocked from that earlier description of regeneration. And I thought, that's very specific wording to use twice in an episode, that you're hiding away. I'm not saying what it means. I'm just
I think that's been mentioned a couple of times before as well, the expression hiding away. And talking about from hiding away, we've got to talk about somebody going away now, sadly. And James, I understand you've got to leave, you've got to pop off, but maybe we can bring you back next time. He's going to dematerialize.
Absolutely. Yes. Thanks so much for having me, guys. Thank you for letting me get out some of these frustrations with this episode, with it hinting that it was Susan, but then it wasn't Susan, and then and then I thought it was going to be Omega, and then it wasn't Omega, and it was Sutek, which I'm also happy about too. But it's very mixed emotions with this episode. But Empire of Death. Sorry, I'm still going to be watching that midnight next week for absolute certain. I cannot wait to see where this goes. I just hope that they use less of the CGI dog. I don't want the villain of Doctor Who to look like Marmaduke. Okay, so
I think it'd be too expensive for them to use it very, very much. To tell you the truth,
I don't want it to be looking like CGI Scooby Doo. Okay, I've seen that. I saw that as a child, and I don't want to look at Sutek and think ruh-roh. So I'm happy. So yeah, as long as it doesn't
it's
do
the
that.
caretaker all along.
Oh, you've just guessed it.
It's been great to have you back, James. Hope to get you on again soon in the not too distant future, mate. Take care. Enjoy the finale. If I don't catch up with you before then, no, mate. Bye. Take care.
Bye.
If Sutek next episode says, "I would have gotten away with it too,"
the classic line.
If it hadn't have been for you, Time Lords.
Did everyone notice that Ncuti Gatwa's doctor? I'm not going to call him the doctor. I'm just going to Ncuti Gatwa's doctor. He's pretty over this rogue fellow, isn't he? Like almost.
It's almost like it never. It's almost like it never happened. It was a load of old nonsense.
What does that tell you? What is Russell T Davies trying to say about gay relationships? We had a fling about 5 minutes and then it's over, and he's kind of disappeared. So over it. I mean, that's not really good, is it? For all talk of representation and stuff like that.
Well, to be honest, I mean, obviously we've talked about this before, so I don't want to spend too much time on Rogue. But I think it was an uncharacteristically thin portrayal of any kind of relationship on that episode. I couldn't believe I was watching the same show, and I have no idea how that thing made it to screen through. I think there's 3 script editors on. Let me never mind the 2 writers. I'm doing the thing. Writers
fetishizing gay relationships, kicking men.
No, that's a good. I think you're absolutely right. Now you've said it like that, I think you're probably right.
And doing for gay men, but written by women who think what gay men do. It's really.
So why on earth didn't Russell or somebody else pull her up on it? It's just ridiculous. Looking back here in the live chat here across YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and on X, Mark Milford says that Ruby Sunday is becoming a lot like Halo Jones, and that's the character from the 2000 AD comics, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Ian Gibson.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who was the writer or artist. Definitely Ian Gibson.
Wasn't that wasn't Alan Moore, was it?
Yeah, it's Alan Moore.
Alan Moore and Ian Gibson. That's it. Yeah, it's simply an ordinary girl who pushes herself to do extraordinary things. Why they've never turned Halo Jones into a movie or a TV show, I have no idea. Has the flood got anything to do with the journey to the next life in regards to Egyptian mythology? Wow, but maybe boats were built and treasure put on the tombs for the journey. But Peter says, he finishes off with, I'm probably talking crap.
No,
Peter,
that's good, Peter.
Never. Paul Ashworth speculates
Ruby's
myth,
isn't it? It's been a myth. Well, not a myth necessarily. I mean, it's an event that may have happened about 9,000 years ago, and I think that has affected all the cultures across the world because it was a global event. So,
I see.
Might be.
It's written up in various cultures, isn't it, all over the world? Yeah, now you mention it. Paul Ashworth speculates that Ruby's mother could be Susan.
The problem is now, though, because we didn't get the reveal in this episode.
Yeah.
If we get it next week, we've all sort of said this in a different way. It better be a damn good reveal for who the mum is. I think he's setting himself up here a little bit. That it has to be like believable and sort of interesting. I think those are the two things it has to be, at least.
That's the trouble. When you've got all these threads and all these mystery boxes, you're at risk of overloading it with all these mysteries and reveals, and that impedes and hampers the story, right? You've got a finale that has a massive villain back, and if you're focusing on all these arbitrary little bloody mystery theater, little threads in here, there, and reveal this, reveal that, you're kind of distracting from the core story, which is what should be the most interesting thing in it. It's there to lead you along, and breadcrumbs here, and it's so done to death now. I'm so tired of it. I'm tired of these arcs. Can we just have good stories again, please?
Yeah, and that's what I mean, Lee. This episode had a lot more of the story than actual overarching stuff. It touched upon stuff. So the next episode now, it has to. He can't leave a load of open questions still by the end of this series.
I think the Mrs. Flood thing will probably go into season 2.
Yeah,
definitely will.
Yeah,
I'm thinking. So I don't think you'll get a resolution.
Nothing.
And about an hour ago in the chat, Shar mentioned that the trailer for episode 8 has now dropped. So that will be awaiting all of us
to savor when we get free. Yeah, perhaps each episode is set in a different dimension. Perhaps each episode is set in a different dimension, like a multiverse, says Peter Den Cut. It's not an attractive idea in my opinion, but I mean, perhaps, but I can't see any reason to think that would be true so far. I think the inconsistency is simply down to unprofessionalism, to tell you the truth. I love. I mean, in my view, finishing this season, any season of Doctor Who, it should always be blockbuster. It should always be
but it's
epic,
the end of the universe again and again. Every end of. I'm so tired of this end of the universe stakes. Once you've gone there the first time, and then the second time, and then a third time, and this, I don't know how many times this is now. I mean, the end of the universe.
Again, though, Lee, the conceit behind this, but the conceit behind this production, though, is that it is a kind of restart for the brand. And to get people on board, I think so. I think clearly so. To give it the international streaming platform like that, their hopes for it are to generate a new. But wherever it doesn't matter that it's Disney. Wherever it would have gone, the hopes for it would have been the same. That what happened in 2005 would happen again. Unarguably, it hasn't.
But where do you go from there after season 1? Okay, you got the end of the universe already at season 1. So you've got to raise the stakes more than that for the next. You can't.
I'm not entirely sure. I have to be honest. I'm not entirely sure what the stakes are, because when the episode closed, it was quite intimate, and they were, as you said, Charlotte, the Doctor's trapped in that TV studio with the possessed Susan triad. They're sort of leaning and lurching towards him. And I don't know whether Sutek intends to sort of lay waste to the Earth first and then spread throughout the universe and send it all into darkness and chaos bit by bit by bit.
The universe is destroyed. Maybe only the Earth exists. Remember, like they said that it was the end of Flux. The entire universe was destroyed apart from the Earth, which had that shield of ships around it. Remember, and then
wasn't it
half the universe?
I couldn't make head and tail of Flux, to be honest. I'm not entirely sure that Chris Chibnall knew what was going on. Russell T Davies did. He tried to clean that up in Wild Blue Yonder as well, but I don't think he was well. Again, he was caught between the devil and the deep blue sea there, because he couldn't spend too much time doing it, because barely anybody had watched it. So what was the point in spending too much time on it? But he tried to use that as fuel for the for the Whoniverse as well, for the reset Doctor Who universe on screen as well, again, I probably wouldn't have bothered. I'd have just forgotten. I'd have time hold that entire 2.5 seasons myself.
Well,
Charlotte
has said all along that this season has felt like it wasn't aired in the right order.
Right? I agree.
I mean, you said that quite often, Charlotte, right? That these episodes seem that they should be fit together in a different order.
I think we've all said the problem is like there's not been enough connective tissue between the episodes, and then storylines, have felt more out of order story-wise. I think I've said. Well,
it's not even ended yet, and I think we can all see that having the Doctor, as much as I liked the majority of Dot and Bubble, having the Doctor pretty much absent for 2 entire episodes, jam in the middle of this season, was a really reckless thing to do.
What I find really off-putting with the clips and things that I've seen is that it's all this breaking the fourth wall, nod, wink, wink. It's so patronizing. It really is quite patronizing. It's talking down to its audience. And that was quite clear with the whole, it's obvious at the start. And then at the end, they try and do the anagram thing again, but not saying it's obvious, even though it's obvious, and pretending that this is a great reveal. It's like, well, it's so obvious. But you don't seem to be very self-aware in what you're right. And it's not an anagram either.
I think
it's not an anagram, but again, I feel that I have to say this. We're, you and I, Lee, we're middle-aged guys. I think for a kid of 10 or 11, 9 or 10 or 11, it's about right. I think that this is for them, not for us. I think it's something that people watch together.
I don't think they're watching this though.
But the intent is the desired audience is the family audience, isn't it?
I think looking back at it, Lee is right to an extent, because where you talked about
I agree to an extent.
Where you had, like before, you said about it was a mistake. I agree on there's 2 Doctor-like episodes. You could have had one of them instead of Rogue. You could have had one that was set on Earth. Sutek has already been released. There's devastation happening across the Earth. Then the Doctor turns back up for this episode. That would have been a far more interesting.
Well, John, in my view, the character that Shooting At were played last week simply wasn't the Doctor.
It wasn't,
and so I think so. You've got that last week, so that's 1 week where the Doctor wasn't on screen. Yep. Dot and Bubble, where it was very limited screen time. It's quite effective, but foolhardy anyway. And then you've got 73 yards, where you barely saw a hair on the bloke's head. So he's been absent for a month.
Yeah, so you could have had a Doctor-like episode that was devastation happening on Earth with Unit, with those characters, and then you come into this. The audience already know a lot more about the characters that are involved in this episode we've had here. I would have done it as a free, because he's done free before, isn't he? He did Utopia and those finales as a free episode arc, didn't he?
This is the problem with. He also had 13 episodes to play with. This time he's got 8. It's all the stuff that hit us when this season started to take shape. Lee. All these things that started to hit us. We thought only 8 episodes. What this is only going to be this. It's only going to be that. How's that going to work? And we think, well, we don't make this show. They do. Bad Wolf, very successful at what they've done with stuff like his Dark Materials. I'm sure it'll be fine. But no, it's reached the screen, and all the things that were setting off alarm bells for us as fans, as armchair pundits, which all of us unashamedly are, they've turned out to actually be the rakes that the series has stepped on over and over and over again.
I think
if
you have a very divisive actor playing the Doctor and a character like Ruby Sunday that for me appears to be, I don't know, people in the chat agree, is not fully developed, especially over 8 episodes. When you got high stakes, you really need to latch onto the lead and the companion to pull you through it and to care enough about them. But when they've antagonized the audience and when they have not connected with this Doctor because he's been absent for so much, and the character of Ruby Sunday is a bit of a copy paste job, I just don't think there's enough emotional weight to carry it through.
I think I've said this a couple of times. Russell, in some instances in the series, and I think it was done less here, but there were still moments of it. He's writing almost in shorthand a lot of these things that he hasn't got the time, he hasn't got the sort of the space to go in depth. So it's all very quick. Oh, right, this is what you need to know. Then you need to, and then that's it. And he doesn't go anything.
Wrapped up in 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like for me, the soldier, the Northern soldier who gets killed. We see him on screen for how long? All we get established is, oh, he's from up north. Like that's literally all he's got as a character trait.
It's and like the gay character in the Chibnall era is like, oh, my husband, blah, 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 and then he gets killed instantly.
Oh yeah, no, it's,
hello, I'm gay.
But it's the same issue for me here that you're meant to clearly try to feel something because he's dead and you find him like that. But he's been in the episode for 5 minutes. Why should I feel anything that he's dead? But they try and play it off like it's such a tragedy.
Well, to be honest with you, that just looks like me on Bournemouth Beach during the summer.
It was a very effective death, and I liked the idea of the time window. I thought that was very well realised. And when the character passed behind the TARDIS appeared in the recording, if you like, and when the character passed behind the TARDIS, I thought, oh, we're not going to see that fucker again, are we? He's gone. And I thought how cool that was. How I know that the Ring was like 25 years ago. That movie, Ringu, and all that wave of sort of Japanese. But that's what it sort of reminded me of. Sort of you delightfully retro.
Like I said, I can see what they were trying to do, and I just think if you would have had that character pop up in another story, and then be in this one, then it would have hit you more. And I've got to say, I did laugh when it's like you've got all the unit people saying respond, and it's like I think he's dead. He's just disappeared into a cloud of black with red.
I thought they should have made more of the fact that the doctor is the one who effectively caused that soldier's death, because wasn't Kate saying no, stand your ground?
Well, Kate glares at him.
No, sure, go ahead.
No.
Kate does glare at him later on, doesn't she?
Bring that picture back up.
Yeah, she gives him the death stare later.
No, he's been killed by Jesus. Look, you can see the cross.
Subliminal.
We have spoilers in the live chat. Everybody close your eyes. Megan Eurobite says spoiler for the last episode. Shooty cries. It's in the trailer.
I was worried.
The big question that nobody is asking, though, is are the Beatles going to be back for the finale?
Ringo get a line and get
help singing it.
John, I want the snot monster back.
Crippling to Bloom says that Millie has been great, but Ruby hasn't been given enough to do. But then nor has the Doctor in just the episodes he's been in. Yeah, I can't argue with that. I think it's been fumbled. I sincerely do. Babette Bombshell's also here with us on YouTube and says, I don't find the staff of Unit to be compelling enough to carry a spin-off. I hope Russell T Davies rethinks expelling energy in that direction. To be fair, it's only a persistent rumour. There's not been any confirmation. There's not been any statements put out about that. I think it's just the natural place that we think they'd go, and I've got no reason to think that a Unit spin-off is definitely happening. I suspect, again, it's the logical thing to do, but I doubt there'll be any spin-offs for the time being for a number of reasons.
Dan, do you think it was a kind of a and I know we still have one episode to go, but do you think it was kind of a miscalculation to basically focus all the interest on who Ruby's mom is as opposed to who she is, and develop her as a strong individual companion?
We're back to that same problem, Gary. 13. I mean, maybe if 13 episodes is impossible, 8, and it's too much. 8 is absolutely too few. They could have probably have done it more satisfyingly with at least 2 more, because of course that's the problem. The problem is pretty clear that we simply haven't spent enough time with that character to feel the way that they think we should about her. And that's nothing against Millie Gibson. I think at times she's been outstanding, and most of the time she's been very, very watchable. I agree with you, Lee, the character is an archetype. She's nothing special. But I think that was probably right for this point in the series history.
Already with previous companions, you know, the key to everything, or there's a massive mystery around. I'm so tired of it now. It's just,
I agree.
We go back to the Doctor being mysterious. You know, let's try that.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it, if we start trying to cop a feel of any bloke that walks past him.
You know,
and also just a traveller as well.
Yeah.
Just a traveller.
Well,
God, you know.
Yeah, well, that's what he told Sutekh way back in 75? I renounced the Society of Time Lords. Now I'm simply a traveller. Do you remember that line?
Yeah.
God. Even with my terrible voice, it sounds cool.
And also, somebody commented before. So now we're to believe the Doctor didn't have kids?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's silly wordplay, isn't it?
Got my eyes going, okay.
I don't think that's worth giving any serious thought to. I liken that to the moment in the Sarah Jane Adventures where the Doctor, he sort of glibly said to somebody that he could regenerate 500 times. I think he's playing with Kate. I think he simply doesn't want to talk about it, and it's that simple.
You know what's really bugging me? You know what's really bugging me? And I hope we get it. I want mummies.
Yes,
absolutely.
Mummies. If you're bringing Sutekh back, bring the mummies back.
Yes,
we want sarcophaguses.
Not in this.
Yeah.
We want sarcophaguses. We want mummies. We want the whole shebang. We've already got the possessed people. Yeah. We need mummies. We need more of this and gas. Yeah. Gary Finn is there in the live chat and says, "I'm a bit late to the chat, but I'm getting Scooby-Doo vibes from the new look for Sutekh there." Right. But this is what I did appreciate was the fact that do you remember this amazing character from the original series? There's Scarman. It's Marcus Scarman, isn't it? And he spends much of that story, the Pyramids of Mars Possessed, all the way back in 1975, and it has to convey so much, doesn't he, with just the makeup? And they kind of brought the same look to Susan Twist there, just for a brief while before she was contorted and convulsing.
Shot through the window, and it was all shot backwards, wasn't it? It just looked so effective. It was so simply done, but it was so beautifully effective. And that gothic horror, that whole gothic horror thing, that whole mood. If that isn't within the finale, I think you're kind of exchanging that kind of gothic horror element for Hollywood blockbuster cinematics, and I think that's a bit tired.
You know,
I'm more focused, you know.
I think, Lee, as well, what I really wish they'd done is certainly for her playing that character is instead of doing the CGI where they turn to dust and collapse, I really wanted the steam back on the shoulders. That's great. Killing people like that.
Sometimes the simplest effects, the simplest effects are the best ones. Carwyn Morris is speculating about how the action may go down when the story resumes next week for the proper finale, and says that it's going to come down to a big dance-off. That's what could that's what could happen. I mean, God, nothing fills me with more dread. Really, I'm struggling with it. I mean, there could be any number of surprises heading our way next week. I think it's an hour-long episode next week, isn't it? So there's bound to be some Easter eggs and some things that we're not expecting may turn up, or people maybe. I don't know. We can hope. But in the meantime, we've been left with lots of questions, as well as the visuals in our heads. I think a lot of the visuals for that, whether it's the vision of Sutekh as a giant dog, sat on the TARDIS like that, I think that was very memorable. But all the stuff with the time window was too, and the figure of Susan Triad being consumed as well. I thought that was pretty fantastic stuff. I'm absolutely going to be watching this multiple times this week. I think I can't wait to watch it again. I thought whether it'll stand up to repeated viewings, I don't know. I think it could end up being a little like Utopia, or like the episode at the end of series 10, where the Masters in disguise, the John Sim Masters in disguise for the entire episode. That when you watch that back, because you know it's the Master, that when you watch it back, it's not got quite the same feel, has it? But
I can guarantee right now, right here, right now, that this will not be enduring. Pyramids of Mars will be enduring and will continue to be enduring, and I think I'm going to go and watch that later on, and not this.
I actually wish, the one thing I wish they'd done, Dan, is I thought a fascinating idea, which kind of went unexplored. I wish they'd gone to more into depth about Susan Twist was dreaming about all these other people, because I started to ask myself, okay, so was she just a normal human that was taken over, or was she like a construct by Sutekh all along, you know, leading to this moment? I thought that was a fascinating idea. That
who was she really?
Yeah,
I got the impression that she was a human being who was used by Sutekh, perhaps in the same way, and perhaps he's got several people lined up like that, and perhaps Mrs. Flood is one of them too.
Okay,
I think he's got. I think he's got lots of puppets. He's got lots of.
But how?
people
He's
that
at the end of the universe. He's got no power until he materializes.
Well, no, but he clearly has
understand
some power because he's already taken over 2 people. So we'll see if that spreads.
I mean, ideally,
and I need to go.
Ideally, we'll get some of those answers this time next week, won't we, Charlotte? That's the point in 2-part stories, isn't it? So we can speculate and we can guess and we can, you know, we can rant and we can rave, and that's part of the fun of it. But only they know what we're going to get, and if we don't get it by this time next week, then we should drag them over the coals by all means. Lovely to have your company again, Charlotte. We'll speak to you in a few days. Good night.
Bye,
Good
Charlotte.
See you guys soon. Night night.
Bye. Yes. Yeah, she's irreplaceable. So lots more to come, of course. Things that could both please and maybe horrify as well, coming up next week for the concluding part. Lots and lots of sand, and it gets everywhere. Everybody knows it gets everywhere, quite literally, by the looks of things there. So lots more spectacle, and hopefully that extended runtime will be used very, very well for Empire of Death.
And then there's the Tales from the TARDIS too.
Yes, we talked about that a little. We talked about this a little on the last show, and I personally can't see how it cannot be Pyramids of Mars. I haven't gone back to the iPLAYER and checked it out, so I don't know if they've revised the entry for that. But I can't imagine that it's just going to be a clip show. It just doesn't quite fit. For a start, I mean, Ruby and the Doctor, they're not together where we presently left them, so it has to. They've got to be doing something else with that, I would think. So I've got to be honest. For the first time in a very, very long time, I am talking. Because I don't think I ever felt this way in the Capaldi era. The Capaldi finales, they never got me in the way that Russell T Davies stuff or the early Moffat stuff did. You know, the first Matt Smith finale in particular was spectacular.
Moffat always kind of built up the idea in your head that it was going to be one thing and then subverted it. At least with Russell T Davies, I'll give him one piece of credit. Will be that when he hints at a monster that you think it's going to be that monster. That's how he delivers it. That's not necessarily.
I also think he's going to do a Last of the Time Lords where the episode will start 1 year later, and he'll put something on the screen.
Oh, wow.
So it'll just be the Earth in darkness, you know, dead planets around it. I can see.
Yeah, we've seen it. There is a clip like that. There's various planets around the TARDIS, sort of covered in sand,
lights or something, doesn't it?
Yeah, really, really effective. I mean, that probably wouldn't bear up to any kind of scientific examination.
So Dan,
but it looks cool, and it looks. It's like comic book stuff. It's something that Jack Kirby would have drawn. And this is what I've always liked. I love comic books too. I know you both do, John and Gary. I'm not sure where you sit on comics, Lee, but I've always loved all this stuff. I know that Russell's a big comics fan. And this is why his version of the show, his vision of it, has always chimed with me, because this is how I see it as well. I want to just mention Tony Farrell's comment in the live chat there, because he's just joined us. I just watched the episode. Not bad, but not the Pyramids of Mars. Still a big step up from last week. What could be Pyramids of Mars?
So, Dan, are you maybe going back all the way to the Pandorica Opens as the last time you were this excited about a season finale?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There was, because I'll give the thing I liked about what Stephen Moffat did was that he kind of realized what you were saying, Lee, that you couldn't necessarily have the end of the world, end of the universe at the end of every season. And so he started to play with it and to make the stakes sometimes more personal. And at the time, that was absolutely right. It was very sensitively judged and a change for the better. Now, though, I feel that we've sort of we've gone 360, and with a new production.
let's hope that Shooty can shut his mouth and sort of, you know, break out of that catatonic state and actually get into doing some action and actually fixing something for a change.
Yeah,
for a change.
Yeah, I think we've seen him be heroic in this season, but because it's been in spotty, is what I'd call it, very spotty. Then he hasn't managed to embody the part, and again, being in just 6 episodes hasn't helped. I would imagine, good God, I hope he's in all 8 of the next season, because if not, they're going to be in some serious trouble. And we've got lots more comments in the live chat too. Babette Bombshell says, I want to see Shooty's Doctor have enough time where he isn't jubilantly jumping around or crying. He feels a little bipolar, like he only has the 2 gears. I feel we got a different gear in this one. And it was very much...
calmer, not when he's 100 mile an hour. I did prefer it today when he was, you know, it was calmer. There was more sinister things going on.
And can he stop calling women babes all the time? I think, you know,
exactly.
For all the talk of feminism and all that. I mean,
well, we didn't get a honey this time, so that was good.
Well, there you go.
It is fiercely irritating. I sincerely can't wait for the conclusion to this. Where are you with this, John? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you looking forward to it?
I would say I'm probably at a 7. Looking forward to the next episode. I'm the same as Lee, really. I want Sutek walking around. I want him in the mask, and I want him being sinister like that, not wrapped around a TARDIS looking like he's peeing on it, you know. So
leg up.
You know, the only way to scare him at the moment, the way he is you just get a vet in to say, basically, we're going to nuke you, and he'd clear off to the end of the universe.
That's an image that's going to stick with me, John.
So what was that? You're at a 7, was it, John?
Yeah.
7. How about you, Gary? Scale of 1 to 10, how much are you looking forward to?
I'd agree, only because I think next episode hopefully is just going to be, you know, all out kind of action adventure, whereas this one was more box ticking of answers and tying everything together. It was more intellectual. How are they going to tie this to this to this? Next time, hopefully, I think will be the test, because it'll be how will they do this kind of grand confrontation.
Lee, I don't ask. Are you anticipating this at all, Empire of Death, or is it something you're simply watching out of a morbid curiosity now? Because clearly it's not working for you right now. So
it's not even expectation. It's not excitement. It's more pure dread that Sutek is going to be, you know, the next thing to be destroyed in the current era, and I just don't trust him to do after what he did.
Yeah, I sincerely, I do see why,
but I'm just so out completely. I would much rather, if anything, it's hardened my love for the classic Doctor Who. Yeah. It's made me want to protect it even more, and stuff like this just really grates on my nerves, because I know why he's doing this, and I know that he's got a grin on his face going, this will really upset them. And I just don't like that mentality. I just think he's a bully, and I think he's facetious, and I don't trust him. I don't trust him with Sutek. I don't trust him with a lot of these things anymore, because I just think he's so captured, and I don't think he's doing it for the right reasons. And I'd love to believe that wasn't true, but I've seen nothing to suggest otherwise.
Lee,
I agree. Intellectually compromised and ideologically captured is my current diagnosis.
And everyone in here, I mean, would you say though, if this ends up doing very well, will that send a message to the BBC and the powers that be to basically say, this is what the audience want, you know? Now,
no agenda, no preaching, no nonsense, just good old-fashioned rip-roaring adventure.
So, I would be absolutely gritting my teeth to will it to succeed after everything that's been going on behind the scenes and everything that's happened on camera since. I just don't. I am that point now where I just want nothing but abject failure for that man. And I tell you, because he's told a very personal friend of mine to F off. He doesn't understand how deeply wounding that is to people who supported him in his career for so long. And I just think he's just turned into such a nasty bully. I don't want it to succeed. And I know that's very selfish of me and very personal.
It's painful for you as well, isn't it?
Well, it's valid. It's perfectly valid though.
Yeah. But with Sutek is my absolute favorite villain of Doctor Who. So this, for me, I'm afraid is something I'm just dreading. All my fiber, with all my millions of fibers, which are being shredded right now, because I'm so anxious that he isn't ruined. And I know Gabriel Wolf's back, and I wish to God I could enjoy that, because he is such a wonderful actor, such a wonderful voice actor. The voice of Sutek, it just sends shivers down your spine. He is such a great villain. And I just don't want to sit there with my head in my hands watching it unravel.
Watching it crumble,
and it might not. It might be the greatest thing ever. I don't know. But for me, Russell T Davies, Ncuti Gatwa, and to an extent Millie Gibson, but not totally. I don't think it's her fault. Just isn't enough to draw me in, because I don't care enough, and I don't like Gatwa. Gatwa. I don't like him. I don't like Russell, and I don't like the way that they've handled the fandom, and they've been very combative. And they've used Doctor Who in such a way that specifically over the last few weeks, I'd say, to really bash home that, you're not welcome. I just don't think that's what Doctor Who's about.
They've been mixed messages at best, haven't they? And it is very difficult to silence any of that when you tune in, when you press play, when you do whatever to get your fix of either your favourite sci-fi and fantasy TV show or your former favourite. It's deeply personal how this show connects with each of us.
Personal.
Yeah,
he made it personal. He did.
My levels of anticipation are really quite high, I have to say. So I'm probably at a low 9 at the moment, simply because I think it would be a lot higher if it wasn't the fact that I've got a hell of a week stretching out in front of me. I've got quite a lot of commitments, other things to think about. You know what it's like being a grown up. It's not great, is it?
I do predict that if Russell has Rose be the one that beats Sutek, that the internet will melt down.
Yeah, and well, again, she did nothing. She might as well have not been there in that episode, because she didn't add anything to the episode, did she?
No, I'd say it's an inoffensive performance of a character that's.
But it wasn't a straight white man,
sweet.
so that's a good.
Yeah, it's yeah. I think that's all that really counts for Russell. I do think that, and I know that he and Yasmin Finney are pally, they're friends, and Ncuti Gatwa is also they're friends too. So I know that no personal respect is probably meant. Disrespect, sorry, but it does diminish people.
Dan, do you believe that? Because I know obviously it's a rumor. I think the rumors Mills is going to go into overdrive in the coming week. Do you think that Susan, like the actual Susan, like Carol Ann Ford, might show up?
I think that's more possible than the 14th Doctor showing up, but I wouldn't hold your breath and wait for it. I think that it was I think Russell was simply being playful, and I think James is right. Actually, I think it was effective, but it is quite cruel for fans who've been waiting to see her again for quite a long time.
And Unleashed as well.
Yeah. Oh, has he? No, I haven't seen Unleashed yet, so that's something to check out. Well, what I'll do, we'll go away and watch Unleashed, and maybe we'll come back in a few days' time and pick up the pieces from some of that as well, because I would imagine there's quite a few things that are going to be setting the cat amongst the pigeons in that. Doctor Who is. Doctor Who is back, so it resumes on the 22nd of June with the final episode of the series. That's the Empire of Death, streaming on iPLAYER and Disney Plus from midnight UK time, which seems to work for some, but not for others. It's horses for courses, I suppose you could say. So, in light of that, before we disappear, we've got other things we want to get into. Before we get into all of that, how about we have a little break here? So this is a fabulous fan trailer that's been put together for the entire 2-part finale. If you've not been excited by what you've seen before, maybe you'll be excited by this.
You don't know anything about your birth mother or your father. They didn't leave a note or a scrap of paper.
Nothing. I was just left.
I wonder who she is. My mother.
I'm still her mum. I need to know she'll be okay. You'll keep her safe?
I will keep her safe. I promise. Her memory changed. She was pointing at me.
Into the vortex.
Doctor on the bridge.
Give me the loving! Now, stay back. You are going to walk through time. Everywhere I land, a woman appears.
In every dream I'm there.
She doesn't know why, but she remembered them.
Doctor,
Whatever it is, here it comes.
there's something wrong. Doctor?
So sorry.
There's a storm coming in. What is that? No, Doctor!
Yes, you've been watching the Type 40 Live instant reaction review special covering The Legend of Ruby Sunday, which premiered in the last 24 hours. Ish. I'm thinking about that sound again. It gets everywhere, doesn't it? So, yes, I loved it, and we had various opinions here amongst the panel. But what do you think? Let us know by all means in the comments, not just about the latest episode, but about the entire season as well. We're getting very close to the end. How has it all hung together? But just one more thing, everybody. I think we've got time for just one more thing. It's our time to take a look up your temporal schism at the prettiest pictures out there in the universe. So this can be traditional art, digital art, it can be fan craft, or it can be cosplay. It doesn't matter. We'll get it all up on the view screen here, but we need to know more fan artists. We need to know the name of your favourite fan artist to get their work up on our screen as well. So connect them with us or us with them. Works either way for us, and then we can all have a look at their work and get their links out so that other people can go and follow them and get their eyes on more good stuff too. More comments in the live chat. Thank you, everybody. I'm glad you're enjoying it all. So yeah, I thought we'd finish off with this. A bit of traditional art and a very traditional story, Lee. This is Mark D. Lewis's take on Pyramids of Mars. Check this out on Canvas.
Oh, lovely.
Oh,
That's fantastic. Look at Garman's face there as well. And the proper Sutek looming in the background with the mummy. Fabulous. Love that.
He's pained. He's pained, isn't he, Gary? You can practically feel him straining.
Wonderful.
You just want to sit down and watch the original now. That's gorgeous.
Oh, I'm going to.
Absolutely.
I think a great many people will seek Pyramids of Mars out, whether they've seen it before or not.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
People in the live chat seem to like this. That's Ace, says Tony L. We've got a knockout from Crimpling Doubloon and a very nice from Mark Milford. So we feature Mark's work quite a lot here on the show. And I think it's reliable. I like his style. I like the unusual way in which he brings some of the elements together as well. And this has a kind of classic, very appropriate kind of horror movie vibe about it, I feel, John. The Amicus and Hammer stuff from the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah, he's nailed it, isn't he? Like you say, it just gives you vibes. To be honest with you, just seeing that gets me more excited to go to Pyramids of Mars.
The shadows on Marcus Scarman's face are great.
Yeah.
Like the shadows under the nose and on the cheek and everything, really well done.
Beautiful stuff.
He's a good artist because he understands. I know it's a composite, so it's not within the same space, but the lighting, that he's managed to conjure is phenomenal. And you've got all those wonderful creases in his face, and that pale pallor, and even the eyeliner under the eyes is there, which is really great. I went to an exhibition today. I didn't tell you. It was in Taunton at the castle there, the museum there.
Oh,
and
okay.
Artwork of classic Doctor Who and modern Doctor Who. It was.
It's just open today, hasn't it? The exhibition has moved to Somerset
in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, so that's
really, really lovely, and there were some great Daleks there. But the artwork was there, and I saw the cover of the Monsters book that I used to have in the 80s, and the actual original artwork was there, and that really made me very happy. So great to see all this, I love it.
Lovely. Yeah, several friends of the show were there as well. Tasha Akaleo, she was certainly there. And Lee Sullivan, I think he was there too. So, I'm looking to get down there myself at some point with a bit of luck. Moving on here. So this episode of The Legend of Ruby Sunday increased the mystery, if anything. It didn't really give us that many answers, but it gave us a lot of spectacle. And the character does seem to have inspired some fans, at least out there, to create some artwork, including this piece from Amri Art, which is really unusual. I've not seen anything quite like this before.
Oh, wow.
Okay, it's different.
Because it's not anime, it's not manga as such. I think it's a little more continental.
Huh.
It's very nice. I just like the lines. I like the choice of colours.
Like the symmetry, because it fits with the diamond logo, so you've got that nice symmetry there. So it's a well-composed piece.
The Doctor Who logo there, the one-tier version, fixed on her woolly hat.
Wow. Is she wearing a Spider-Man shirt?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, she's
that's going to be a crossover.
Well, Disney.
Yeah, I really like that. Very cool Japanese comic book art, says Lex Kane. Obviously believes it's Japanese style. Clever, but not for me, says Richard Brooks. Yeah, I was really taken with this when I saw it. And because of the patterns, those sort of bubble patterns on her cheeks, and the red of the nose as well, it makes her look a little bit like a doll of some kind. So I just thought it was a very nicely composed piece, and just a style that I'd not quite seen before. Very, very nice. From Amri Art there, and you can find her work on Instagram. So go and check that out over there. And finally, the episode may have only just dropped in the last 24 hours, but that hasn't stopped some speedy fan artists getting on it, clicking their mouses and getting their styluses out and doing whatever they need to do to create digital pieces, including this one from Steve Mellor. This is his Legend of Ruby Sunday poster, which is certainly the best one I've seen so far. Wow. Capturing so many elements from that episode, bringing them all together. And I think this does kind of sum up the story without giving any spoilers away as well. You've even got little Morris Gibbons there on the right-hand side.
Yeah. It's nice, isn't it?
It's very nice. I like.
Who's the famous poster artist who did the Raiders poster and a ton of others?
Drew Struzan.
Drew Struzan. Doesn't Ruby look like a Drew Struzan Ruby in that?
Yes. Dave said that. Yeah.
That's a bit of a tongue twister, that one, isn't it?
That again? The first Doctor's TARDIS up top.
I was wondering about that as well. I think we could forgive Steve for that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Or an 11th, 12th Doctor or something.
He's also got, if you look on the left-hand side, the Master's TARDIS is there, on the side.
And up by the TARDIS as well.
And I can also see Gallifrey in the background. So, that's very strange. So maybe Steve knows something that we don't. Could Steve be sneaking out a couple of spoilers there? I don't know, but it's a very nicely done piece. Anyway, I do. I like the way it's got a sort of painted look, just as you said there, Gary. So what do people say in the live chat about this one? Nice, says Mark. The illusions reminds me of Pete Warbank, says David Mullen. That's absolutely right. It does remind me of Pete's work. Paul Ashworth likes this one, and Mark Milford says home run. 100% book cover art. Tom Monty noticed that's Matt Smith's TARDIS. It is definitely. That's my favourite, says Tony L. It does look like a movie poster, as befitting a blockbuster episode of Doctor Who.
That's remind me of that Matt Smith season where you had those sort of movie posters per episode.
Yeah.
Remember those?
That's right.
Oh, I love those.
They were on the exhibition as well.
Yeah.
I really did love those. So yes, that's more fabulous fan art here at Type 40 Live, and you know the drill by now. You've got to send us their way or them our way. Send them a link to Type 40 Live or through our social medias and tell them that we want to get their artwork up on screen, or you can send it to us.
I sent you one.
Yes, I can't. Once the show starts, I can't.
I know that.
But anybody out there who's got a fan artist you want to get on our radar, that's how it works. We very much want to see whatever it is they do, whether it's traditional, whether it's digital, whether it's crafting or cosplay even. Let's get it up on the screen. Let's have a look at the good stuff. More good stuff could be coming to the iPLAYER at the end of this week. So this is the key art for the Tales of the TARDIS, that strange thing they do on the iPLAYER where they take a classic story and they sort of crunch it down. They put it in an omnibus form, don't they? And they drop a minisode at the beginning to lower the sort of the floaters, the casuals into it. That's coming up at the end of this week, so before the second part of the finale. That's going to drop on Thursday at 8. They don't want to put it on at that time. Something much better is happening here on YouTube. Thursday at 8, Tales of the TARDIS. Right. You'll be able to stream it. You'll be able to stream it afterwards there. So it says there it's on BBC 4. So yeah, that's curious. Have to keep an eye out for that. Doctor Who Tales of the TARDIS, which should tie into Pyramids of Mars. Tom Monty speculates about that here. He says it supposedly is on the new Tales of the TARDIS episode. So I don't know if the listing for that has been revised in the time that we've been here. Who knows? We'll find out by the time we get back to you next, I suppose. Which reminds me. Let's start.
That cursed doctor is interfering with my plans, but I will destroy the universe. He won't be able to stop me, but you might if you watch Type 40.
Yes, so get in touch with us through our social media, Instagram and X at Type 40 Doctor Who, with your opinions about all of our opinions there, about everything that we've seen in the last 24 hours. And what are your thoughts about what's to come there? What do you think is going to happen in Empire of Death next week? Cut out the middleman if you like, and get over to the Type 40 Facebook group there on Facebook and hang out with, I'm not saying it's gone to the dogs. There, that's not what this is saying, but
are they Sutek's harbingers?
They are now. Yeah. That's Bella and Reba, the Doctor Who dogs. So they are Facebook group trained, and if you head over there and join us in the Facebook group, you can add your opinions there to our rolling review thread as well, and get stuck in. I mean, Bella doesn't look very happy. In fact, neither of them look very happy. Come to think of it, so they may well be asking the same questions that you are about the short-term future of Doctor Who there, Lee. Great to have you guys on the show for this one. Hope you've enjoyed it. Lee, it's been great to catch up with you. I want to remind everybody that if not for Lee, we wouldn't have the best theme tune in the whole of Doctor Who podcasting here at Type 40 and Type 40 Live. It's a belter, and it just keeps on giving, mate.
I'll have to do have to release it as a single at some point, maybe.
There you go.
I think perhaps we should. We've got more comments about the Tales of the TARDIS thing. People, keep them coming, everybody. Great show, guys, says Lex Kane. Thank you, Lex. Thanks for watching. And we have Sugar. It's the master, says Tony. Oh, that's our cosplaying friend, isn't it? Yeah, brilliant stuff. So, yes, Gary, it's been a few weeks since we've had you on. The last time was the round table, wasn't it? But it's always great to connect with you as well. There's always a tart put aside with your name on it. There you go. You don't get that very often.
I'll take the apricot one.
Good stuff. So, yeah. Great to catch up with you. Hope to have you back sooner rather than later. We are going to be covering the finale as well, so if you want to join us for that, you're more than welcome. But for now, thanks for your company, mate. John, I think I've spoken to you more this week than I have members of my own family.
Yeah. People are starting to talk, mate.
Thanks, thanks for coming on again. Lots of gold there as well. And it's great to see you smiling. Oh God, it's not that you're a miserable bastard, but it's great to see you smiling. And I'm glad you enjoyed it almost as much as I did. You know, it is a great feeling to finally enjoy your favourite show again, isn't it? After a long time.
It is. It's and I've been like, Lee, and I've talked to you about it, and I've talked to Gary about it as well. That I've just not. It's very sad when I've not been able to enjoy Doctor Who, and this is the first time I could say, "Oh, actually, it feels like a Doctor Who story." So I just hope they learn, they listen. But as Lee kind of said earlier, I am a little bit skeptical. But give me more of this, and I hope it's a banger next weekend. Let's bring it on.
Bring it on. As soon as one countdown ends, another one begins. So next weekend, we'll be getting the concluding part and the finale to this entire season already. Join us throughout the week here at Type 40, live streaming and dropping videos. So make sure you have the cloister bell. Hit it hard. Hit it hard, everybody. Get yourself subscribed, or check you're still subscribed if you think you are, because YouTube can be little monkeys like that. The UK overnight ratings will be with us in the next 12 hours. I think they come out by about midday, 2 o'clock on the Sunday. So that'll be coming, as well as more consolidated figures. We'll have a consolidated figure, won't we, for Rogue next. So there'll be lots more to get stuck into as the week progresses. That's bound to have Russell T Davies sat there chewing his nails and clenching his buttocks. Who knows? Obviously, if you're watching from the future, then you know something that we don't. If you're watching from the past, we're sorry about all the spoilers for The Legend of Ruby Sunday there, Empire of Death next week. Thank you, everybody, for all the comments. We always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40 Live. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, all believers and non-believers. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.